But let's say tomorrow the law stated that we had to use torture.
Don't be absurd.
Why, it used to be the law to be the law again. It's only a matter of principle. Then you would use torture if the law said so.
You're using an extreme example.
All right, then. What's your limit? How much injustice would you stand for to satisfy the people we work for?
Good evening. I would like to report on the state of our war against the American people. We're mounting a sustained campaign to crack down on every American and every person of every faith and every nation, and to bring them to justice. All missions are being executed according to plan, without warning or provocation. Americans are being swept up in an international dragnet. Thousands of FBI agents are on the trail of other citizens here and abroad. It has everything to do with hate and evil and murder and prejudice. America's strong.
Federal agents, we are armed!
What would you do if you knew all the things we know? Would you stand up for truth? Or would you turn away too? And then what if you saw all of the things that's wrong? Would you stand tall and strong? Or would you turn away? What would you do if you...
And I stood up for you, didn't I? Perhaps someday I could help you. Someday I could tell you the nature of evil. No, man. Because if I did, then I'd be out of a job. Let's go to work.
That's wrong. Would you stand tall and strong? Or would you turn it away?
I see a message from the government. Like every day, I watch it and listen and call them all suckers. They wanted me about Osama or whatever. Picture me buying the scam. I said never. You in tune to a hard truth soldier spitting. I stay committed, give up the die, I lose commission. It's all a part of fighting devil state mind control, and all about the battle for your body, mind, and soul. And now I'm hoping you don't close your mind so they shape you. Don't forget they made us slaves, gave us AIDS and raped us. Another Bush season mean another war for profit. All in secret so the public never think to stop it. The Illuminati, 666, all connected. Stole the votes, they control the race and take elections. It's the Skull and Bones Freemason Kill Committee. See the dragon get in every city.
What would you do?
That's the way the courtroom game is played around here, isn't it, Counsel? It's not the way I play. Let me tell you something, pal. Half the time we don't know which side the law is on. That's the way the wheels of justice turn in this town. And they're the only wheels we got. You have to excuse me, I got some police work to do.
Now ask yourself, who's the one with the most to gain? On 9/11, couldn't stand his name. Now even waving flags like they lost their mind. Everybody got opinions, but don't know the time. Cause America's been took, it's plain to see. The oldest trick in the book is making enemy. A phony evil so the government can do its dirt. And take away your freedom, lock and load, getting searched. Ain't nothing changed but more colored people locked in prison. These pigs still beat us, but it seems we forgetting. But I remember 4 September how these devils do it. Giuliani, ask Diallo how he doing. We in the streets, holler jail to the thief, follow. Waving flags, bring these dragons to their knees. Oil, blood, money, make these killers ride cold. Suspicious suicide, people dying, never told. It's all a part of playing God, so you think we need them. While Ben Ashcroft, take away your rights to freedom. Bear witness to the sickness of these dictators. Hope you understand the time, brother, cause it's major.
What would you do if you...
Haven't you ever had any doubts about enforcing unjust laws?
It's not for us to judge the law,
But to enforce it, yes, I knew you would say that. You never experienced that, right? You never thought that you were an instrument, that you were sort of an executor looking after the interest of whomever happens to be in power?
So now you asking why my records always come the same. Keep it real, ain't no fillers blinging. Mine eyes seen the glory of the coming of the beast. So every story, every word I'm saying peace. See, you could witness the Illuminati body count. Don't be surprised, these is devils that I'm talking about. You think a couple thousand lies mean the killers? Nigga, I swear to God, we the ones. Ain't no villains, or any other word they think to demonize a country. Ain't no terror threat unless approval rating slumping. So I'ma say it for the record, we the ones that planned it. Ain't no other country took a part or had their hand in. Just a way to keep you scary so you think you need them. Praising Bush while that killer take away your freedom. How many of us got discovered but ignore the symptoms? Talking loud but ain't nobody saying it. And with the Fourth Amendment gone, eyes are on the first. That's why I'm spitting cyanide each and every verse. I see the Carlisle group and Harris bank accounts. I see them plead the fifth each and every session now. And while White Stag burns, see the public buy it. I see the profiling, see the media's compliance. War's good for business, see the vicious make a savior. Hope you understand the time, brother, cause it's major.
What would you do if you knew all the things we know? Would you stand up for truth? Or would you turn away too? And then what if you saw all of the things that's wrong? Would you stand tall and strong? Or would you...
Welcome, my friends. Welcome, and thank you for joining us on this 8th day of April, 2008. We're going to be live here now for the next 2 hours. That's right. I've decided to go ahead and do a 5th hour today till 4 p.m. Central Time because I was going to be in studio already for like 30, 45 minutes doing national out of London, British radio. So we're going to do a simulcast with them in the next hour. A lot of news we're going to be covering, like the one here that I only got to briefly in the last hour. Rabbi, second most powerful rabbi in Israel, life of one yeshiva boy worth more than 1,000 Arabs. Charlton Heston and some of his pro-gun control activities. We might as well just be honest about this, but I still defend the guy because he talked about how he was conned earlier in life. Also, Homeland spy satellite plan ignores Constitution. And we've got some economic news that I'm going to be getting into today as well. An Australian man was sentenced to 3 years in prison for pointing a tiny pin light, hand light laser at a police helicopter. So this is all part of the police state. But as promised, we're going to go to your calls. Stan and Susan were left over at the end of the Genesis show. And so now we're going to be flipping over to you right now. I want to tell you, later in the week, Thursday or Friday, we're going to air 10, 15 minutes sneak peek first of my new JFK film here. The next week, I'm going to give you a sneak peek of my latest 9/11 film that's nearing completion. And I have a secret 9/11 film I've been working on for a while that'll also be coming out by the end of the year. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about that right now. I'll just let folks know that for those of you that have wanted to hear more about the Israeli angle, there's quite a bit of that in there. But there's some other information in there as well. Everyone just wants me to go all the way to the edge so they kill me. And I guess I've got to satisfy you or something. But we'll be covering it all on the show today. The number to join us is 512-646-5400. And we also have another camera in here. Usually we're going to use that camera on the guest that'll be sitting right over there. We're going to start having guests at least every week. We normally do anyways, in studio, and we'll hold them over into the 4th hour or have them just in the 4th hour. And just a lot more coming up. So we are all very, very excited about this. And then see, now you have the document cam. You can see me drinking tea. My only vice I have left is a cup of coffee in the morning and a cup of tea in the afternoon. I guess it's my red coat roots. Okay, I'm going to quit screwing around. You're tuned in to hear information, and we're certainly going to do that. Let's go ahead and first go to Stan, and then we'll go to Susan. And then we'll go to everybody else. Stan, you're on the air from Colorado. Or Steve, excuse me. Go ahead, you're on the air. Oh, Susan's first. Okay, I'm sorry. Susan, new phone system in Texas. You're on the air.
Hey, there's been something about the North American Union that I've been wanting to call you about. Today turned out to be a really good day to do it because of the article that's in the New York Times. I think one of the reasons that they want to dissolve the borders is I believe the American oil industry wants to recapture The Mexican oil industry, they were kicked out of Mexico in 1938 when Mexico nationalized their oil industry, and I've never heard anybody really talk about this. One of the comments that is in the paper is in Mexico, it's a symbol of sovereignty and nationalism, and I have a feeling that the Reconquista people, if they really knew more about this, they would be, once again waking up to how they're being used.
Well, I agree with you, but it's not even the U.S. oil industry. It's the globalists are completely merged with the Mexican billionaires. The richest man in the Americas now is not Bill Gates. Last year it was listed as a Mexican. It's the perfect system of slaves and the ruling elite. And then they're going to use their slaves down there to overrun and break down the borders, the sovereignty, the wages here. That's why Rob Allen and Co. 3 years ago, it came out in the Dallas Morning News that they were going to finance demonstrations nationwide, and that's what you saw. Thank God it backfired. They wouldn't take the free American flags out of the backs of Rob Allen and Co. paid-for trucks. American flags, they brought their own Mexican flags, so it blew up in everybody's face on that side.
Another issue I would just like to remind listeners about is AIDS as a bioweapon. Dr. Leonard Horowitz's book, Emerging Viruses, 500 pages of incredible detail. Every study that he dug up from the National Cancer Institute.
Oh, it's all Navy programs, congressional programs, an autoimmune weapon to kill the blacks.
And anybody who doubts that, if they'll read that book, there will be no doubt.
Well, you can find a lot of those documents online, too.
Good.
Absolutely. Anything else?
That'll do it for today. Thanks.
Good to hear from you. I really appreciate you holding to tell us that.
Take care.
Thank you. Rhett in Alabama, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. I got a short story to preface my point for calling. It's kind of lengthy, but I'll try and keep it quick. The other day, when I was studying, my friend came in, and I had you playing in the background, and you were talking about Ted Turner and his eugenics rant. And my friend says, "What's this?" And I turned you down, and I started telling him about it, and I went off on this tirade. And by the time I'm done, I was just so overloaded with information. He was thinking that Ted Turner was the head of some, crazy conspiracy to, wipe out a huge population on the planet, which, wasn't the point that I tried to make at all. So I realized that we have a problem. When you're trying to wake somebody up to, what's really going on in the world, we lack a lot of efficiency, in informing the people because we don't have a predetermined strategy. So I figured a solution to this, right? If we sit down and, during the day and we think up, 2-3 arguments that we can have, pre-prepared to tell someone when you're trying to wake them up, then I think we'll have a greater success rate in, allowing them to see, 9/11, the New World Order, the eugenics front.
Rhett, I think it's 6 one way, half a dozen another. I think it's more confidence that's important because everybody goes off if someone telling them something in a confident way. And that's the key to sales. And then giving them documents and saying, hey, there's a lot of kooky conspiracy people, but there's also a lot of stuff that's true. You ought to check into what's true. Do you know about eugenics? Do you know about Hitler? And say, well, he learned that.
I completely agree.
But also, let me just add that it's 6 one way, half a dozen the other. Some people, it's effective to be smooth about it and slow. Others, it's better to hit them upside the head with a psychological 2x4. And I think I've been the most effective out there of any one person fighting the New World Order. I mean, that's what everybody says, and I think that's really true, which is quite a weight on me because I'm not that good at this. But I think it is because I am aggressive and in your face, and people also can resonate in their guts. They know I'm telling the truth, and so they resonate. My great frustration is I seem to wake up so many people, and then to the New World Order, and then they run off and get into all the kooky, weird groups that are full of bull.
Right.
And so in a way, I'm actually doing a lot of bad, and I used to ignore it.
Alex, you're a huge rallying point for everybody. I mean, there's no group, the Alex Jones audience. We all look to you as a flag or a standard. You're the flag bearer behind all of us.
I better do a good job. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Anyway, so I made a small solution for the most effective way. I've studied marketing. The most effective way to wake people up. So if we have a few predetermined, not arguments, but speeches we could give to someone, just in everyday conversation. Okay, have that ready. Know your evidence. Know what you can point them out to. So I can send you this on YouTube, or I can send you this link here. Not anything too long. Maybe 5-10 minutes. Just don't overload them. Get their information, and then stay in contact with them. We really have to go out of our way here. Really put an effort into waking people up to this global agenda that's threatening America.
Well, I agree with you, and I really appreciate you calling into the show today, Rhett. Now let's go ahead and talk to William in Texas.
Alex, thanks for taking my call. I tell you, you woke me up a number of years ago, and dealing with that Second Amendment rights. I wanted to find out what your opinion is on the license to carry. Whether you think that would be a good idea for an individual. And one other quick thing, and then I'll get out of your way here on that, is that that excerpt book, Brave New World Revisited, is a really good overview of some of the information on the New World Order, how long it's been going on, and what's
Aldous Huxley wrote Brave New World in 33 or 30. He wrote it in 32, published 32 from memory, if that serves. And then he wrote Revisited in the 50s, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I read both years ago. I need to read them again, but Huxley, before he died, and by the way, that's some of those clips are in Endgame, but on the website we put the whole hour-long speech at Berkeley 2 months before he died, and he came out and eloquently laid out, and he's from one of the most elite families in England, one of the wealthiest, that, no, he wrote this in 33 because this is what they were planning to do, and that the science then knew about cloning people to be a slave class and dumbing down with injections and poisons in the water the subclasses, and I mean, that was written in 33. And so then, those guys were in power 100 years ago, 50 years ago. They're in power today. But so, go ahead, tell us about Brave New World Revisited.
Well, it gives a short synopsis on the Brave New World, the first issue in that. But what it does, it really gives you a perspective as to where they were, how much information was available at that time, and where they're coming from, and how we can, better have an idea of what's already in place way back even at that time frame.
Well, you can see how the architects of the New World Order, as they call themselves, the social engineers, just keep building on the same plans, and they adjust a little, but it's a great work of art to them. They're like a director, Ridley Scott, making Blade Runner. I mean, they're crafting it. This is a labor of dark love that they wrought, and I appreciate your call. Excellent point, sir.
Thank you very much, Alex.
You bet. Oh, you wanted my take on the concealed carry.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, let me just let you go, and I'll try to give you my take on it. I mean, do you want to give us your take on it first?
Well, it's one of these things I've been considering, but I'm just a little leery with all that fingerprinting and information that they have, available.
It's a gun. It's a gun registration is what it is.
Exactly.
Okay, let me comment on it.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Thank you. I am against the concealed carry. I think it's bad. If you look at Vermont or you look at Arizona, where they have just right to carry, whatever you want. Have the gun, have it concealed, not concealed, wear it in plain view. Now, it goes back to Anglo-Saxon common law that all free men had arms. The symbol of being free, not being a slave, was you had arms. Swords. And then going back 600 years ago, handguns, rifles, blunderbuss, things of that nature. And so, but the law was you were an assassin or a thief if you hid your arms. And so it was against Anglo-Saxon common law that was Germanic and Norman and Celtic law mixed together with a smattering of Mosaic law, because that had been Christianized by then. But unusually enough, the Mosaic or Jewish law was very similar to the Anglo-Saxon. It was just like kind of an ancient common law. Because tribes all over the world had similar laws. In an African village 5,000 years ago, the men all could have arms from the other tribe and from animals. See, that's how you could have the Jewish law the same as the Germanic law, very similar. So that's where we get the idea in our law that you can't, that you can't have a concealed gun. So that's why the government comes in and tricks you and says, oh, you got to get a permit for a concealed carry, because under common law and under the Constitution, Bill of Rights, Federalist Papers, Second Amendment, you can have rifles, handguns, whatever. You just can't conceal them. So a license is an authorization to do something that would be illegal. It is a permission slip. Like I have a hunting license to hunt in the King's land. 90+% of the land in England or France, feudal Europe, would be off limits to the serfs as a control mechanism. But sometimes the king would want food brought into his table or into his lord's table, and they'd say, okay, here is a license on leather for $2 or 5 rabbits or 6 pheasants. And then you were the people that lived in government housing in and around the local lords who served them. They were the uppities. They got to, go out and they got to eat and they got to live and they got to do okay. But the little serfs living out, who had to give 25% of all their grain or whatever they produced each year as a tax, they were kept at a subsistence level and were never allowed to enjoy meat. Okay? So it's all a control mechanism. So it's a trick. Whereas, except in a few states like Illinois, New York, a few others, where you can't have the guns openly, they come into states to see. In New York, 60 plus years ago, they came in and said, "Oh, just get a permit to have a gun," and it was $5, and and they did, and then suddenly, oh, we don't give those permits anymore. They incrementally made it harder and harder. So it's habitualizing us to slavery. They come into Florida, they come into Texas, they come into all these great states, 30-something of them now. And they get everybody used to having a license. And so the most pro-gun people who are apt to have a big collection, a big arsenal, now you're registered, fingerprinted, you're in the system, you got to tell the cop you got a gun when they come up. You're a prisoner now. You have gone into probation, and you think you've gotten some special right. Now, because the police state's so bad in most of these states, and because cops will still arrest you even when you're not breaking a gun law, they'll say it's their discretion. It's not a bad thing if you're a business owner or carry a lot of money or are getting threats to have the concealed carry just so you don't get into trouble with these people. But it doesn't matter. I know people who have concealed carries that have accidentally walked on the UT campus. I mean, they got a fanny pack and they walk 10 feet onto the UT campus. Those guys are watching. They run over to a computer guy, no criminal record, worth millions of dollars, I know. Great salt of the earth guy, volunteers at charities, great family, clean cut. They run over and say, "What's in that fanny pack?" And he says, "Well, concealed carry. I'm just walking over here to me." Boom, get up against the wall. His life over. Felonies, convictions, everything. And they're just waiting with all these zones you can't go into. I am for the Vermont concealed carry or carry law where they just say, hey, it's in the Constitution of the state. It's in the federal Constitution. You can carry a gun. Like, take Texas. It's all being under common law attack. You put a rifle up in your, just 10 years ago, you still saw this, up in your truck. And you drive down the road, even in the country, cops are going to pull you over. And they'll search you and put guns to your head and freak out and ask why you got it. Are you threatening people? Because there's so many cowards driving around who think guns are illegal because they watch TV shows set in New York or L.A. or Chicago. They think the dramas are real, where they pull somebody over and they've got a gun, they go to jail, the cops freak out. They watch that. Or a carpet cleaner's in your house and they see a gun case. They think it's illegal to call the cops on you. Cops still arrive and show up, usually cook something up to take you to jail. Billboards everywhere saying report illegal guns, picture of a revolver. Everybody then thinks revolvers are illegal. See, it's a good question, so I have to spend 5 minutes covering it, and I promise to go to calls. So concealed carry is very bad. Gun dealers get real mad at me when I say, hey, that NICS system's a registration. It says rifle, or long gun, shotgun, where you got it, who you are, federal database. Now they're going to put misdemeanors and any kind of mental issue in there. No judge, no jury, no nothing. And they'll go, shut up, don't talk about that on your radio show. It cuts back on sales. Well, if you just stop bending over to all this, and if you would just mobilize gun owners at the state level and stop sitting there sucking your thumb, we could turn this around. I'm going to talk about that before the hour ends. Let's keep banging through the calls. Ned in New York, you're on the air.
Hey, Alex, how you doing?
Good.
Well, gosh, I agree with you on so many things. I really don't know where to go. I kind of wanted to talk about energy solutions, I figured.
Go ahead.
Well, let's see. I saw you had the Air Tornado sponsoring your show a while back, which looked really interesting.
I don't know what that is. Let me stop you. I don't know what that is. The network, Genesis, goes out and sells ads, and then I get some of the ads for myself as payment for doing the show. That's right. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff that I don't know what it is. I'm not saying it's bad. I just don't endorse it.
Okay.
So, well, I mean, what is the... hold on. What is the Air Tornado?
Well, I looked at it on the internet. I hadn't heard of it until I heard the advertisement on the Genesis show, and it's just something you add to the engine of your car that sends the the air going in a vortex. Basically, they're little.
Well, I know. I mean, let me just say this:
blades that don't move. That when the air passes across them, it sends it into movement of a vortex, kind of like water going down a drain, so that the gas is directed all towards the center of the pipe, increasing the density.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still studying this, so I don't know exactly how it works. But I know that, for people that are looking for energy solutions, it's definitely something to get into. I mean, it's kind of a primitive application of Schauberger's work, because really you can run motors just with water.
It sounds like
combustion at all.
It sounds like some type of primitive turbo system.
Well, I say primitive because all it's doing is using the air for combustion, when in fact you could use. I mean, it's you're imploding the air, but then it's going to be exploded afterwards.
Ned, I hear you, and I appreciate your call. Let me just say this about alternative energies. It's the same system, same paradigm. Just because the mainstream media lies and twists and spins and does everything they do doesn't then mean that everybody else who claims they've got an energy machine or something that makes you get better gas mileage is real. Now, that said, this sounds like a real device and sounds great. I just can't endorse anything that I haven't studied or looked at or talked to engineers about. That's all I'm saying. Did Ford in the 60s have contests and have cars that got 85 miles to the gallon? Did Chevy in the 70s put out 90-plus miles to the gallon? Has Toyota openly by the 80s had car designs with hundreds of miles per gallon that give you even more horsepower and go hundreds of miles an hour? There's no doubt they've artificially suppressed a lot of technologies. There's no doubt that they've done this with the oil companies. There is no doubt that they have suppressed a lot of other clean-burning technologies. There is no doubt that all of that is going on. My only point is, I remember scams where you invest in this company and then they later send you a free energy machine that takes energy right out of the ground. And then you never get it sent to you. So because it is something people are interested in and something that's scientific, there's projectors. That's the old English term for con artists who will tell you, invest with me, I'm going to dig a gold mine on your land. I know there's gold. And so that's all I'm saying is that there's a lot of scams out there. So you better watch yourself. Okay, let's go ahead and talk to Elliot in New York. Elliot, you're on the air.
For waking me up.
Thank you, sir.
I'm actually a coin dealer, and I've been dealing with ancient Greek and Roman coins, and through that I have come to study history, and I have found that the Roman Empire fell because it debased its currency, and they were not able to support their wealth and their greed anymore. So since I feel that we're at the end of the Roman Empire, or similar times as when Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon with the elimination of the habeas corpus. So,
yeah, there's no doubt we're at a major crossroads, a major flashpoint. The social engineers call that a liquefaction or an unfreezing of the social, economic, cultural strata, and it's called a realignment. There's a major upheaval, implosions, explosions, politically, scientifically, spiritually, happening, and so they want to make all their major changes while everything is unfrozen. We have to go in and we have to get involved like never before, as Lenin said, and because I quote Lenin doesn't mean I support him, I hate him. Somebody said because Ron Paul quoted Trotsky, he was pro-Trotsky, just so infantile intellectually. But we got folks who aren't intellectual now coming into the intellectual debate. That's how they grow, so it's okay. It's just very childlike. Lenin said that there are times in history where more happens in a month than happened in 100 years. We are now in that period, but because of technology accelerating, it's not just going to be one big renaissance, but a whole bunch of renaissance together. One acceleration into another acceleration, into another acceleration, on into the singularity. Go ahead, you got the floor.
Yeah, so if you want, you guys can visit my website at janusnumismatics.com. JANUSNUMIS.
Hey, that's a good plug, but you know what? Hey, that's a good plug. But hey, for the plug, can I have? Even like one of the $10 Greek ones or one of the old Romans. I like those. I give those as Christmas gifts. Family really gets off on it with a little card. Do you have little cards? You ought to be a sponsor with a.
Oh yeah, I wanted to, but when I called up your GCN network, they said that Ted Anderson was dealing with coins, but
yeah, but but see, you can call me. And I believe if it's ancient coins, you should be on my website. I turn out a lot of gold dealers for Ted, but I have no problem with the old coins. And sir, I appreciate your calls. Just contact my office. But to be serious, there I was being a bit sarcastic. I'm not a big collector, except of ancient things, but not because I like to hoard things, but because it's so interesting. But I mean, nothing expensive. You know, I just remembered, I just moved a while back, and I don't even know where in all the moving, I had like 10 coins. One of them was gold, but it was like Babylonian, like 3,000 years old. But the others were like $20 a piece and stuff. They were like Roman and things, and just so beautiful. One was Greek and had a Pegasus on it. Where are my coins? Ha ha ha! But talk about those are neat gifts, ladies and gentlemen. Like giving somebody a Revolutionary War musket. Now that cost like $1,000, and I haven't bought one of those yet. But I almost bought one for a friend who's done so much for me. I just don't have the time to find the right one. But that's a piece of history, man. All right, now I'm really digressing like an idiot. Robert in Nevada, you're on the air.
Hello. Best wishes to my favorite Aquarius on your new diet.
Thank you.
I have a couple of quick questions and a comment. Question number one, how do you rate the Philippines as a potential place to get away from any potential political problems we may be undergoing?
I know Art Bell ran there and was in a luxury high-rise and pulled out in less than a year. There's kidnapping there. The Philippines is really sunken into problems. The globalists fund fake al-Qaeda groups. Their own military's taking control of a shopping mall peacefully just to get international media attention and point out, it was like a top colonel did it, pointing out that the U.S. funds al-Qaeda there actually to bring the government down, against their Christian government. Of course, al-Qaeda works for the New World Order, so of course that's their job in Serbia, Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan. That's their job. They are the super force of the New World Order, the super boogeyman. But from what I've got, the Philippines is not a safe place. They got real-life pirates there, real-life people there. Even if you've got money and are in some armored compound, they'll still try to come in on you. I know that Arthur C. Clarke, who just died a few weeks ago, lived in Sri Lanka that's had revolution and killing, but he was in an armored compound and was pretty safe. Costa Rica is one of the best places, but it's now losing a lot of its freedom. You got the money, the Virgin Islands, the British Virgin Islands. A lot of the big money is going to New Zealand or the Cook Islands.
Okay. Second question. If someone gets reported to Child Protective Services and maybe they don't immediately get into hot water, but they're, not doing very well economically, they don't make a lot of money, and they don't live in a great part of town, does their name stay in the system?
Oh, absolutely. They're always hawking around and flapping about, and it's worth it to keep your old driver's license and move to another part of the city or even a town nearby, and then keep the old license and to not put your name in any private database, anything, just to keep the blood-sucking pedophiles away from your children.
Okay, and two quick comments. I was lucky enough to find a website where a semi-retired Florida lawyer put out a really useful course on how to actually handle a lawsuit on your own. It's called Juris. That's J as in John, U-R-I-S, Juris Dictionary, jurisdictionary.com. And it's solid gold. It's really great. And my second comment is that I had to endure something that a lot of your listeners will in the future years, I'm afraid, where some greedy brothers and sisters, when the parents die, will call Elder Protective Services. And the social workers, a lot of people don't understand, they will work night and day to get you thrown in jail.
Well, that's right. You'll have one parent that's died, and the parents have got $2 million, and the other lazy scum children routinely want to go ahead and send them to a hospice to have the water taken away from them as mama dies in 14 days of agony. And these yuppies do it 24/7, and they are going to have lives of hell. They don't have to wait till they die. You do things like that, the universe is going to hurt you.
Yes.
I don't think they understand that. I'm scared to do bad stuff because I know how the world works, man. You reap what you sow. You better believe it.
Yes, I was lucky enough to get a social worker evidently fired because she left a nasty message on my answering machine, because normally everything they do has no fingerprints. They never answer a letter. They never want to be taped or anything else.
Yeah, that's right. It's good. For a couple $100, you can buy a VCR and have a camera mounted at your front door. And then you want to have like a locking screen door because they'll try to push their way in. And usually you just ignore it, but if they keep banging and flip out, you come and you just have it in the bookshelf with books in front of it. You pull a book out, you hit record, you have it tested. You may not use it for 5 years. And you hit the record, and then they'll never expect it. And you got that little camera hidden up there in the eave, and boy, you can burn them good. A lot of them go to prison over that. More and more of us are setting this up.
Yes, I had a brother blow in from out of town, and he insisted that my mother have a nurse come in to be checking on her, and the nurse would just sit around and watch TV and read the National Enquirer. And when I changed my working hours and asked the nurse not to come by for a few weeks,
they called the elder services on you.
Well, she got with a social worker. When the social worker left me a message on my answering machine, I called and left the social worker a message on her answering machine telling her to write me with any questions she had, and then she called Elder Protective Services.
Well, that's what they do. I appreciate your call. Remember, the government with children, I haven't seen the numbers on elderly. I know it's bad, though. Actually, I have seen some numbers, but I can't remember them. 5 times more likely to abuse you. The most dangerous place for a child is with the government. 5 times. So we go to the group who has the worst track record, who shouldn't have a license to wipe their own butts, to wipe their own noses. And look, there's some good social workers in some areas, but the system itself is predatory and set up by eugenicists. And to take over the family, to take over the whole system, to take over the entire society. And they do this over and over and over again. You know, expanding them out into other facets of our daily lives. Let's go ahead now and take a call from Freedom in California.
Hi, Alex. How are you doing?
Good. I'm going to start blitzing now. Go ahead. Go fast.
Okay. Really, to do this properly, you and I would need about an hour to debate the things that I have to debate with you. But I think that I agree with you about 95% of the things that you talk about and discuss. So I wanted to talk to you about some of the things I don't agree with you about. Well, number one, I don't believe that any planes went into the Twin Towers. And I wanted to discuss some of the points that some of the people are making about why they believe that no planes went into the Twin Towers. And I've never heard you actually address the actual claims.
Okay, go ahead and make the claims, and then I'll deal with it.
Okay, I've watched all of the different programs, the shows that, the different stuff. Number one, there's the video called 19 Rector Street, where there's a building that was shown that's clearly that exists, that was supposed to be in the video that CNN showed, and it doesn't exist in the video that CNN showed to everybody with the second plane crashing into the building. There's another very important point. Every time you slow down and watch any of the planes going into the buildings, the explosions don't occur until after the plane is inside the building. There are some where you can actually see one wing disappear completely, and then there's one video where the nose exits the other side of the building before the explosion happens on the face where it enters.
Okay, let me just stop you. Email all that, because there might be something I haven't seen, to Aaron@Infowars.com, and I will look at it. Any other points?
Okay, yeah, we can move off from 9/11 and the fakery and that stuff. Let's see. I want I've been a sovereign, and I've been studying law myself, and I've been studying conspiracy for 20 years, along with yourself. But I've actually delved pretty deeply into the law. Been to hundreds of Patriot meetings. Been to lots of sovereign.
Okay, I understand.
Meetings.
You're a grand poobah. Go ahead.
Okay, well, you have people like Larry B. Kraft on the program, and at a lot of the meetings I go to, a lot of the people...
Hey, look, man, I don't want people filing bonds on politicians, because I know a bunch of people in Austin went to jail for it. I'm not going to give advice out that sends my frickin' listeners to prison, man.
Yeah.
All this
that's
delusional magic filings that send people to prison. I'm looking at somebody out the window who almost had their life ruined by these people's bullcrap. Excuse
me. I happen to know of a situation where somebody actually got out of prison by filing a lien against Ashcroft, and it got him removed from the prison because I follow up on these stories.
Oh, yeah. They were probably already getting out of the prison, and so they think it got them out of the prison.
No.
Or let me tell you something. Sometimes messing with these people, going after their property, does freak them out and they leave you alone, but not because it's legitimate, but because it's basically like stalking, and they stalk us with illegitimate stuff too. And so just because it works doesn't mean that it won't send 9 out of 10 to prison. Look, I appreciate your call. Sir, hold on. We don't screen the calls. I'm going to let you go now. We don't screen the calls. I let you call in with 2 major issues. I've got to talk about those issues. And you're welcome to call in tomorrow, Bubba. But I promise to take a lot of calls. In fact, before you even started talking, I said, I'm going to blitz through your calls now. Okay? All we asked was your first name, where you were calling from. How did I know you were going to go off and disagree with me? I didn't. I said, we got to go fast here. There'll be a YouTube video. Look, he gets scared here and hangs up on me. Look, some other day, it's a 4-hour radio show now. You can call him. We'll give you another 3 or 4 minutes. Now, look, what was the first thing? The TV fake stuff. If we attack the official 9/11 story by saying there's no planes hitting the towers, Tower 1 or 2, we give Fox News and the globalists the perfect tool to discredit us. It's not the best evidence. Okay? B, I don't believe that planes did not hit it. And every time I bring up, hey, my good family friend, Jimmy Wright, who lives in Fredericksburg part of the year in the World Financial Center, he was drinking coffee and saw the first plane, heard a noise. He's right across the street, looked up and saw a plane crash in. And they go, no, that you didn't. I mean, I remember like 4 years ago being in New York and trying to talk to no planers, and they would start screaming and spitting and, liar, no, you didn't, you CIA. We all know who I'm talking about, and, my God, get away from me. I am the leader. This one guy starts screaming, leader. And then I'm like, whoa. So it's kind of like the folks that come up to me going, you dirty Mossad agent, we ought to kill you, you liar, you work for the Mossad, we have the proof. And I'm like, well, what's the proof? Shut up, liar, I hate you. Then it kind of makes you never want to talk about Israel. Because it's like, man, the people that all talk about this are nuts. Though I'm going to be talking about Israel here in a minute. I got to spend some, that's why I'm hurrying. And then I've watched a bunch of these videos, and they go, look how the fireball comes after the plane flies in. Exactly. The plane flies in at 580-something miles an hour. Within a millisecond, it's already traveled 100-something feet, the length of the plane, into the building. When you're going close to 600 miles an hour and the plane's 100 feet long or whatever, I mean, do you understand how fast at 600 miles an hour? One plane was going supposedly 509, the other 560-something, so I averaged it to 580. And it hits, and then it tears through the superstructure and pieces fly out the other end, and it aerosolizes the vast majority of the jet fuel, and so it catches the air, which the coal-burning kerosene needs, and boom, just like you take a hairspray bottle or spray paint bottle when you're a kid and take the lighter when your parents are gone, you're, in the backyard, hope they don't pull up, and you're with your friends melting army men. The plume's big on the other end, not where it's coming out. So then I watch them going, look, it's disappearing. And we blew it up with the original tapes, as best res we could. We blew it up on big screen plasma screens. And that's the frame rate. That's why you can take the same video from some TVs or how they were recorded or originally from the news networks, and it doesn't have that. But you take some cruddy VHS that messes with the frame rate, and you do that. And sure, it looks like the wing goes in and then disappears and there's no cut. But if you really blow it up and look, there's the cut. There's the cut in the aluminum and metal siding. And that plane just shreds into a million pieces. And then who comes out and says the no plane? Former Bush administration officials. And then Fox has them on over and over again. And whenever I'm doing a debate, they laugh at me and say, no planes, ha, ha, ha. And and BBC wants to talk about it in interviews. And I go, but what about hijackers trained at U.S. bases? What about how they were U.S. government agents? What about the massing of U.S. troops around Afghanistan the months before? What about W199I? What about the FBI being told to stand down? What about their houses, cars, credit cards, informants living with them? What about Al-Qaeda being CIA created? I mean, you bring up those arguments with, like, I've been around executives, I've been around high-power government people, they freak out, they go, yeah, you're right. Man, that convinces people like Jesse Ventura, it convinces them all. But you start talking about no planes hitting it, ladies and gentlemen, or pods and flashes and all this other stuff. It's over. But everybody wants to be their own trailblazer in this movement. And so they want to focus on their issue, their area. And in any black op, they have it confusing. They have it strange. They have planes lifting off and landing in weird groups. And Operation Northwoods talks about CIA folks getting on a plane, having to go one place, another plane painted up with the same tail number being blown up, off the coast of Florida, and then finding the wreckage and the tail numbers. And we know they did it. The black op, we're not sure how they did it. And so you were reasonable and sounded like a normal person, so I answered your question. The normal no-planers are just completely nuts. I mean, they are completely out of their minds and vicious and aggressive and lying and slanderous and then they've always got former admitted spooks and former admitted people from CIA universities running around spewing. And I've been at hotels around these people and had them walk up and go, yeah, you and all you people are going to, sue when we take over. And, of course, I can't go on air and say who said that to me because no one would believe it, and then the person could sue me. Just like I've had an anarchist walk up to me before, and I'll go, you work for those cops on the top of the building. And they go, yeah, we do, and we're going to kill you, you son of a bitch, soon. And I'm like, get the camera over here, Mike. And Mike's over there interviewing, cops trying to start a fight dressed up like anarchists, and we got that on video and aired it on Access, and I'm so busy I can't find the original tape. It's pure gold. It's even worse than what you saw in Ottawa, where they were staging, and of course it came out on national news it was staged, now admitted. I mean, I've been there with them on the street when they walk up and they go, we're going to, just all sorts of things. I remember 3 years ago, one of them, I went to dinner with one of them, and I knew they were they use unstable, provocateur, informant types who they've got a lot of dirt on, who are perfect to go out. Just like the guys they have that, quote, are official ground zero tour guides. And, man, you'll be in person with them when the camera moves off, and they'll just point blank going, how long do you think you'll get away with this, Jones? We're going to deal with you. And it's just point blank. You're dealing with a hardcore special ops killer. I mean, you can just look at them, high and tight haircut, 40 years old, carried out lots of black ops. You go find out it's not even their name. We've trailed them, seen them meet with the police. I mean, it's serious. It's just like the fellow called in the other day. He was at a CFR book signing with a CFR, one of the head guys, and he walks over and says, the New World Order is falling apart, but Zygmunt Brzezinski said 30 years behind, and the guy puts the pin down and says, we will recover. I mean, I've been at the Capitol before and had the Speaker of the House years ago waddle over and go, Alex, you're a smart guy. The people don't want your help. They want to be dumb. The way you change the process is compromising and joining us. Y'all just join us. And he's wearing a $3,000 suit, had a sharp haircut, sharp jewelry on. And he was like, here's my card. Give me a call sometime. Let's get dinner. I'd like to work with you. And I had one of the most high-power Democratic Party members in Austin call me when I played an Access show with clips off C-SPAN of him meeting with communist Chinese in the White House, and it was him with Clinton in the meetings. And he called up, and he was Alex. You know what? Bill Clinton's a great person. And I don't appreciate you talking bad about him and what you did with me. Why don't you just join us? That's how you know these people are real. The no-planers, ladies and gentlemen, are operatives at the top. Now, they got a lot of well-meaning people. They're handling you. They're manipulating you. Like a lot of the people that say Israel runs it all crowd. They're meant to act wacky and crazy and mix crazy stuff in with it. And notice they'll operate for about a year or two, get your confidence, and then they'll start talking about UFOs, moon landings, Neanderthal, just craziness. And by then you're already emotionally committed to it. And so you can't pull out of the craziness. See, they don't want you to legitimately come to the table and legitimately have an effect. They don't want you to legitimately expose what they're doing. It's really just that simple, my friends. Now, it's weird doing a radio show and controlling cameras and computers and phone calls. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 calls and growing. I don't know how to ever get to all these. Oh, yeah, what was the second thing he talked about? Because if I don't cover it, they'll say I dodged it. Do you remember the second thing that last caller brought up? Oh, man. Let me think. He said no planes, even though there were engines on the ground and photos of that. Those are fake photos! That's a fake video! You saw the CG! That same guy comes down to Ground Zero a few weeks ago while We Are Change are down there with a sign saying 9/11 Truth, We Are Change, carried out the bombing of the Armed Forces Recruiting Center in Times Square. I called Luke up that day and I said, I've got a feeling. There were witnesses in here. I got a bad feeling. They're going to try to tie you to that bombing and try to set you up. And he goes, already happened. This guy showed up, started punching them, screaming with a BBC News crew with him. The operatives. Going, hitting people with a huge sign to get attention saying that they had done the bombing. I mean, that is on a silver platter. And Luke said, should I put the video out? And I said, don't do it. Don't give him attention. You know what? I'm wrong. Let's let it all hang out. In fact, call Luke. I mean, Luke doesn't follow my orders either. He calls me out once a week and asks what he thinks what he should do. And half the time he doesn't listen to me. Go ahead and call Luke and just tell him to put the video up. In fact, maybe we'll play it tomorrow here. I am the leader. I was at one meeting one time, and they had him up to speak, and he goes, you must all follow me. I am the leader. No planes. Effing Blisa Gulenballing. Hair sticking up in all directions, disheveled, mustard stains on the front of his shirt. Yeah. And I always thought he was just mentally ill until I saw that he was being handled by BBC and all these other people. And little winks and nods and friendlinesses with the people down there affiliated with Screw Loose Change and the rest of it, who are down there advising the crowds and creeping around. I mean, they're running an operation, and I got news for them. Your operation's blown. You have failed miserably. You have failed in a big way. Everybody knows you're COINTELPRO. They know you're disinfo now. They're talking about the real issues. One of the embassy heads, Springman, who I first interviewed 6+ years ago, almost 7 years ago, within 2 months of 9/11, he's now out there talking about how the hijackers were U.S. government agents and he was ordered to let them back into the country. You have failed miserably. All of you. And you're going to go on failing. You understand me? And you can kill us individually, but I want you to know that ideas are bulletproof. And you're all going to be brought to justice. Do you understand? You're all going to be dealt with. Do you understand me? We are sick of you murderers. And all of you that support their system and support the lie and help push the lie, you are accomplices to all of it. You know, I said I'd take calls, but I got to get to this Israel thing. No good deed goes unpunished. I'm going to get into this hot button issue, and then, you know what? I'm on the British TV till 15 after. I was going to play an exclusive video, not yet seen by folks here, for 15 minutes, but maybe I should just take calls. So, because once I'm on with the British, I don't know if I'll be able to go to Eddie and Roger and John and Justin and Troy and Jay and Anthony and Jeremy and everybody else that's holding. Oh, man, I'm enjoying this no ads. I might just keep doing this. I like it. Coming straight on for you. You've made my mind. Now I'm strong, and now I'm coming straight on for you. What should I air? You know, the Ed Koch has been up on the PrisonPlanet.tv website, but it hasn't gotten the attention it deserves. I want to air the Ed Koch in the 15 minutes when we go to break here in a moment. But I can cue that up and do it myself. So we'll just stand by and go to that right when we hit 3 o'clock in 6 minutes. And then we'll come back and take all your calls. Or I can give each person 30 seconds, but then they'll accuse me of cutting them off and hiding the truth or something. It's really not fair that people that disagree get all the time, but, well, we just have to do that here. Sorry. Rabbi Eliyahu, life of one Israeli worth more than 1,000 Arabs. And the word is yeshiva boy, worth more than 1,000 Arabs. Here is the article. And the reason I find this so interesting, put it up on the document cam for you. Oh, that's the wrong one. Here it is. Got so many things to switch here. The reason I find this story interesting is I posted this up on Infowars.com, Kurt Nimmo, to be technical. That's a major Israeli paper and publication and online journal. This is one of the top 5 publications in Israel. Ynet, news.com. And see, that's in Hebrew right there. You see that? I mean, I talk about how the Jerusalem Post and Haaretz admit that Otago admits that they got a call and told all their employees not to go to work that day 4 hours before the attacks. And they warned 4,000 of them, and that's where the rumor started there were no Jews. No, there were some Jews in there, but I got it out of Haaretz and all that, and I popularized it. I went on air day one and said, look, Otago, and then later I was accused of covering it up. I put it in Road to Tyranny. The point is, though, why would Otago call the newspaper and say we were warned not to go into work if they were part of it? I'm not saying Israel somehow wasn't involved in the attacks or elements of Shin Bet or Mossad. The point I'm making is that Otago certainly wasn't, and the Jerusalem Post and Haaretz published it, and their publications are under military D notices. The military can control what they publish and what they don't. So why does Israel admit that they warned people to get out of the buildings, and why then is it admitted that on top of all of that, that they've created fake al-Qaeda groups and staged bombings as a pretext to kill the peace process? Now, is that saying there aren't real people that do bomb and kill people in Israel, and I'm against that? Certainly there's real stuff going on. The point is a lot of it's fake. And so I'm just reading out of the Israeli papers, and that's what I do. So let me go ahead and read you this article. Rabbi Eliyahu, life of one yeshiva boy worth more than 1,000 Arabs. And this is, again, out of Ynet News, out of Israel. This is their English version. They have it in Hebrew for you if you'd like it. But on Prison Planet, on InfoWars, but comment number 21 on the story, where we posted part of the story on Infowars.com, there is comment number 21. See it right there? There's comment number 21. Comment number 21 had this to say. Aaron says, I don't agree with Zionism and the occupation of Palestine land, but articles like this allow the MSN to portray the truth movement as a bunch of anti-Semitic white supremacists. I don't want to be classified as a white supremacist like Randy Weaver and have my property sieged by federal agents on trumped-up charges for going to an anti-war protest for 9/11 Truth Rally. That's all those people's jobs are, to be informants and radicalize fringe groups. I agree with you. Got any sawed-off shotguns for sale? I'll buy ammo. I get a copy of Mein Kampf for free. Oh, cool. Can you bug my house? My house now, please. Well, Aaron Williams wrote this. Hey, Aaron, we didn't write this. This is a big paper in Israel. Okay, it's painful to have to do this. It's painful. And you read here the quotes at the big national meeting. And it's head of the Merskov Harav Yeshiva chose to explain the attack by saying the Torah and the land of Israel are acquired only through agony. Former Sephardi chief rabbi Mordecai Eliyahu called on the government to decree for every life lost in the attack against Yeshiva, the township will be formed. Even when we seek revenge, it is important to make one thing clear. The life of one yeshiva boy is worth more than the lives of 1,000 Arabs. The Talmud states that if the Gentiles rob Israel of silver, they will pay it back in gold, and all that is taken will be paid back in folds. But in case like these, there is nothing to be paid back, since As I said, the life of one yeshiva boy is worth more than 1,000 lives of Arabs, added the rabbi. He's the former head rabbi, now he's number 2. I mean, this cannot be defended. And they advertise this in here. Now, the paper goes on to say, Ramat Gan's chief rabbi, Yaakova Ariel, chose to deliver a more moderate message, so they slightly criticize it. We do not seek vengeance, we seek retaliation. The terrorist house should have been demolished immediately, regardless of the law, and again, it goes on from there. So you have the Texas Civil Rights Review saying that when I did a story about people at a La Reconquista rally, thousands at the Capitol, wearing green shirts, a bunch of them wearing green shirts in a rally of thousands, saying Plan of San Diego, I found out that meant killing all whites 16 and older. I said, man, that's bad and racist. And then the Texas Civil Rights Review in a publication said, well, they do want to kill all whites, but they're downtrodden, and you have to understand they're an oppressed people, and I was bad for saying that. So, see, this has to be talked about, but, I'll probably be attacked by the ADL now, and I'm just trying to be inclusive. And again, most Jews aren't involved in this, don't believe in this. I had to talk about Hagee when he said that Christians really are second rate to Jews, and Jews are better than anybody else. I've seen him and say Jesus isn't the Messiah, and I had to talk about that. I got that going real big and got a bunch of threats over that and attacks. I mean, I got a big show, folks. I'm not somebody with a little website here. What I say gets paid attention to. I get off a plane in Europe, I'll be arrested just for saying it's wrong to say, that one Palestinian is worth as much as a Jew. That's it for this hour. We're going to play you the Ed Koch interview. And then where we demolish everything he says, and then in about 15 minutes, I'm scheduled to be on British radio. And I'll tell the British radio, hey, I want to take calls, and I'll just on air take calls from my end, whether they like it or not. So that is coming up. We'll be right back in 15 minutes. I want everybody to stay with me.
Promised land, big job.
Well, he is a veteran of the European theater in World War II. He's a member of Congress, and he joins us for the balance of the broadcast today for the next 25 minutes or so. He's former New York Mayor Ed Koch. He's written 16 books, and he's here with us today to talk about his newest book, The Koch Papers, and a book he wrote years ago, I think in 99, about the nasty little Rudolph Giuliani. So we'll get some of his comments on that as well. Mayor Koch, tell us about the new book.
Well, I wrote a book which I'm very proud of. It's my latest and my best, and it's called The Koch Papers. And it is a compilation of the statements that I've made and the commentaries I've issued, speeches, and really first-rate, beginning with my days in Congress up until recently on the issue of anti-Semitism. We're fortunate in the United States. This is really the golden age. Of course, there are anti-Semites. The pastor of Obama is an anti-Semite. But the fact is that anti-Semitism is vastly decreased, but rising in Europe to the point where it's close to where it was in the 30s, just before World War II.
Well, that's an amazing statement right there, Mayor Koch. I've seen the quotes about the government inventing AIDS or the government shipping in drugs for the black people, but I haven't heard him make any anti-Semitic comments. Can you tell me specifically what Barack Obama's...
Yes, he has, when you attack Israel, you have a right to attack Israel, but if you attack it when you would not attack another country for doing the same thing, then it's anti-Semitism, in my judgment. So let me give you an illustration. He and others attack Israel because it engages in self-defense against Palestinian terrorism, and he says that the Israeli treats the Palestinians worse than the Nazis treated the Jews. That's ridiculous. And secondly, What the Israelis are doing is, for example, what the Turks are doing today. They go into Iraq to go after the terrorists that enter Turkey to kill Turks. And I haven't seen anybody criticize the Turks for doing that. That's the right of self-defense.
Well, Mayor Koch, you were in Congress, weren't you, at the same time that Jimmy Carter was in office?
I was.
And I've seen photos with you meeting with him. I mean, would you call him?
I know.
I mean, would you call him friends? I mean, are you saying that Jimmy Carter, or would you say Jimmy Carter's anti-Semitic?
No, I wouldn't say he was anti-Semitic. I would say he was hostile to Israel, but not anti-Semitic. There is a difference. You can be critical of Israel if you criticize it for the same reasons that you criticize other countries. Jimmy Carter criticizes a lot of countries, but I haven't heard, in this case, Reverend Wright or anybody else criticize Turkey for doing what Israel does, which is defend its people from terrorist attacks.
The difference is the Kurds didn't have that area of Turkey, and Israel has been expanding and pushing the Palestinians into smaller and smaller areas and demolishing the houses.
Let me defend that. Firstly, Israel has agreed to the two-state solution called the roadmap, which President Bush and others have urged. The Palestinians under Hamas in the West Bank says no. Every Jew who entered the historic Palestine after 1917 must be expelled, and there will be one Muslim state. I think that's a threat to Jews who are now about 6 million.
Mayor Koch, I'm not denying that there are a lot of Palestinians, a lot of Arabs that say push all the Jews into the ocean and the rest of them.
A majority.
Yeah. My whole statement is that the Arabs were not there killing Jews until 47, 48, when Israel blew up the hotel.
It's not true. It happens that for example, in the mid-30s, the Arabs killed every Jew in Hebron. In the mid-30s, the Jews were living. You may not accept it as such. I don't know. Maybe you do. But Jews have lived in the area which was known originally as Judea and Samaria until the Romans destroyed the Jewish kingdoms. They continued to live there.
I totally agree with you that Sephardic Jews that are 20% of the Jewish family certainly have been there for 3,000 years.
Yeah. So you may not accept it as such, but in the Bible it says that God made a pact with the Jews that the area which was known as Judea and Samaria.
Actually, God ordered the Jews to go in and kill everybody, including their animals.
Well, he may have. I don't really know that section, but that's not what you or I are talking about. I'm simply saying that from an historical point of view, this is the land of the Jews. Most Christians accept that.
Mayor Koch, I get criticized because I don't go with what's fashionable and just bash Israel all day. I'm really trying to show both sides here. I'll tell you what I don't like. What I don't like is the fact that in Europe, the different governmental organizations, different lobbying groups have tried to push to even, ban people's political free speech. Even if I don't agree with what someone is saying about Hitler, I think they have a right. I think they have a right to say it.
Let me explain to you.
So do you agree with the First Amendment or not?
Of course, in the United States, we have the First Amendment. They've never had the First Amendment in Europe.
I know, but if you think we should have it here, they should have it there.
No, not at all. Each country has its own laws, and in Europe, because of Adolf Hitler, in Germany, in France, and in England, they have said that you may not, under penalty of criminal law, say that there was never Holocaust. Now, Holocaust deniers say, "Oh, Hitler didn't kill the Jews."
But Mayor Koch, we know what they say, Mayor Koch. And we certainly know Hitler killed a lot of Jews and a lot of other people. I'm not
only
debating
a lot, 6 million.
Yeah, and about 20 million Germans died, and he killed about 7 million Poles.
Hitler didn't kill 20 million Germans.
20 million
the
Germans
Russians,
died.
And we killed 20 million Germans.
So you're not arguing with that 20 million number?
Because they were fighting a war.
Mayor Koch, you don't even know where I'm coming from here. Let me just get my point out. Because I really want to hear what you have to say about this.
Of course.
Okay? I mean, look, both my grandfathers were over there. So believe me, I know about it. Okay? They're over there at the same time you were. Okay? So we're on the same team here when it comes to that.
Okay.
My whole point is I was going to give the numbers. Millions of Poles, millions of Russians, millions of Germans, and yes, Hitler did target Jews. That was his whole shtick. We know that. It was horrible. My whole point is that once you say, and there are groups here trying to restrict free speech in the U.S., same groups.
No.
Once you say,
nobody's trying to restrict free speech in the United States, and it's foolish to say that. And let me just.
Well, I'll say this: the ADL and everybody else runs over to Europe and supports what they're doing, and they are over
Europe,
here.
You see, you're not staying on point. I have said to you, Europe does not have the First Amendment, and they never had it, and they don't want it.
So you're saying
they don't want it.
You're saying they don't have any free speech. They don't have any free speech.
No.
A committee's going to decide. A committee's going to decide who has free speech.
Not a committee. The fact is that the governments of the countries that I've told you about have decided that it is in their interest not to allow the resurgence of neo-Nazism.
I understand that, but now they've expanded it, Mayor. Now they've expanded it to don't criticize the EU. Don't criticize immigrants flooding in.
That's baloney. But let me just,
you want to bet money? I've got all the headlines. They arrest you in England if you say the word homosexual because they've decided that's not.
That's it. You know, you're saying things
Robin
that are
Page,
ridiculous.
BBC. $10,000, Mayor Koch, right now.
Baloney.
Robin, bet me.
Pure baloney.
Bet me.
It's what you do.
Robin Page was arrested. BBC reporter for saying the word homosexual.
It's ridiculous, and I don't believe it, and it isn't true, and I don't know your particular case, but let me go a little further. The reason, what you're conveying is, well, so what if they kill 6 million Jews? They killed 20 million
That's
Russians.
not what I said. What I said is that you shouldn't take people's free speech. That's what Hitler did.
I want to go a little further. I wanted to draw a distinction for you as to why the Holocaust is different in a lot of respects than the killing of any other group, even as terrible as it was. And I will tell you what the difference is. Hitler issued an order called the Final Solution, which said that every Jew in the countries in which Nazism prevailed would be killed, baby, infant, child, man, woman. No child could be adopted to save the child's life. No Jew could convert to Christianity.
No, it was an extermination plan.
Exactly. And that was not what he did with any other people. And that's the difference.
Oh, I agree with you earlier that the base of Nazism was to go after the Jews. I mean, I've read Mein Kampf. I understand what's going on there, Mayor Koch, and I'm not arguing with you. All I'm trying to say is that you're not aware of all the new hate speech laws, even in England, that has no connection.
Listen, you're not in England. You're in the United States. The English have a tradition of being very free with speech, but they have decided that they have to put limitations on it. That's their decision.
No, that's the government. The British people don't want to join the EU, and the government's forcing it down their throat.
Look.
It is a threat to freedom to have a tax on free speech, Koch. You can't say you support free speech in the U.S. and then go and then go to Europe and be the head of the U.S. delegation to go over there with that whole agenda off of the people that got killed, taking people's free speech today, using the dumb Nazis as your poster boy to take other people's free speech.
Now listen, nobody from here is taking anybody's free speech. Each government in Germany, they decided that if you did not clamp down on neo-Nazism and do that by saying that if you revere Hitler, if you engage in a fascist Nazi salute, you're breaking the German law. You want to change that. Germans are very happy to have that.
Well, I know this. BBC and Der Spiegel reported that the Germans, government since the 60s, has been caught heading up the neo-Nazi groups that they allow to operate, and were caught provocateur firebombing attacks against Turks as a pretext to pass such laws.
That's ridiculous, and that's what is known as the conspiracy theories in the United
Mayor
States.
Koch, you know what we're going to do with this interview? We're going to take your statements saying that they didn't arrest Robin Page.
No, I don't even know who Robin. No,
and we're going to put the articles up.
I don't even know who.
The firebombing.
Please give me a chance.
We're going to show
I don't even know who Robin Page is. I am simply saying to you, when you say that in England they arrest you for saying the word homosexual,
yes, they do.
I say that's junk, not true.
No, they say that that the police decide if it was meant as condescending because scientific terms now are seen as threatening.
The police don't decide; they arrest, and a court decides whether you engage in hate speech.
You didn't know they have police that go to restaurants and sit listening randomly for people using racial terms?
I don't believe that for 1 minute. You're filled with conspiracy theories. It's really peculiar.
Hey, let me guess. The North American Union doesn't exist either, right?
Let me ask you something. Do you think it was the Arabs who blew up the World Trade Center, or do you think it was the Jews?
Well, that brings me to my next point.
No, can't you answer that question?
Mayor Koch, I'm going to answer your question.
Yeah.
Okay. I do not believe that the Jews carried out the attack on the World Trade Centers. And I also know that the Pensacola News-Journal, the Associated Press, the San Jose Mercury News, and Newsweek all reported that the hijackers were trained at U.S. military bases.
That's correct. Not U.S. military. They were private training places. So
separate from that.
What it... listen, I can't. You're so full of misinformation, and if you're pervading this every day, you're polluting the airways.
Should I have my free speech taken?
No.
Should the fairness doctrine?
Whatever you want to.
Should the fairness doctrine be brought back?
No, I don't believe that. I believe you can say whatever you want to.
Hey, Mayor Koch, I actually think you're a funny, smart character, and I want to come back and talk about Giuliani because I don't like him either, and I want to end this on a friendly note. But I'll just say this as we go to break, okay? If you look at 9/11, you look at how they massed more than 70,000 U.S. and British troops around Afghanistan and had the aircraft carriers, and Bush signed the order to attack Afghanistan the day before 9/11. And if you look at how Building 7 wasn't hit by a plane but fell, and you look at NORAD standing down, and you look at Bush running the 9/11 Whitewash Commission, that's why there's questions. So to say that because a minority says Jews did it, the majority of 9/11 truth doesn't say that. So I want to get your take on that. Let me get back on the other side. Mayor Ed Koch, his new book, The Koch Papers. All right, Mayor Koch in Congress, ran for governor, mayor multiple times, very popular. New book, The Koch Papers. Just type Ed Koch into Google, you can find it all. Your own. Look, I was talking to you in the break, Mayor, and I actually believe there's a global eugenics program, Planned Parenthood set up by the Rockefellers who funded Hitler. I know you got questioned by We Are Change a week or so ago, and they brought up Prescott Bush. It was in the New York Times back in the 40s, being the head Nazi agent in the U.S. You said you knew nothing about it. I find it hard to believe that you've lived in New York and New Jersey most of your life and that you didn't know it's common knowledge and been headlines on the BBC. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, live internet stream. I'm going to be interviewed by a national radio show in the UK. Wonderful folks. Communication broke down, and they didn't know I was going to be doing just this internet simulcast today, but I'm going to be interviewed. They are now in control of the transmission for the next 30 minutes or so, and so I'm going to turn things over to the folks in England. and the radio program is The Night Before, and we are honored to be here. Guys, do you hear us?
Yeah, hello, Alex. How's it going?
Good. I've just decided to, almost like the Truman Show, just let everybody, in an audio way, follow me around. And I'm even thinking about actually doing a video show for 24 hours straight on the web in the near future. So this is also going out on the web via video right now.
Right, like the Big Brother TV program.
In a way, I mean, sure, this has been done for a long time, but this is just more so people get an idea of the stuff I'm doing and who we're talking to. But listen, you're in command. Let's just say we've got Alex Jones on the line and start your interview. I'm sorry we got our wires crossed.
Okay, no worries. Okay, well, what we wanted to do is we were intending to do an interview with you where we sort of get inside the head of Alex Jones, because a lot of our audience won't know who you are. And so I wanted to talk through your different sort of stages of development and how I came into contact with you as a consequence.
Absolutely. I know you're pre-recording this for a few hours to air across England, out of London, and so just for the listeners, it's not live yet, but plug for my listeners before you start where this is going to be on, how they listen on the web, or for our listeners in England, where they tune in.
Okay, well, we're across the UK on digital DAB, and we're on FM across the West Midlands, and the name of the station is Kerrang Radio, and if this is really good and we enjoy it, maybe this will get turned into a podcast as well. It'll be broadcast on Tuesday, and it'll be broadcast at 12 o'clock at night across the UK.
Okay, and that's this Tuesday or next Tuesday?
Yeah, this Tuesday coming, because we're in Tuesday now here in the UK.
Okay, gotcha. So this is a week from now.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Got it. Okay, I was confused.
We want to edit you and make you say you love Big Brother and you want the Illuminati to win.
Germany calling, Germany calling.
Okay, listen, here's how I first came into contact with you. In fact, it's weird. I was thinking about you earlier on, Alex Jones, and I think probably the first way that I came into contact with you didn't even involve you. It was I was reading a book called 1984, and I closed the book and I'd finished reading it. I remember thinking, actually, the world can never ever be the same now. Now I've read that book, forever my mind's damaged or whatever, or changed. And obviously, is that a book you yourself read? I mean, you're not that much older than me. You're around the same age.
I'm 34. It was an extremely powerful book, and because I had already been somewhat of a history buff, not because I was a bookworm, but because growing up, my mom has a degree in history, my dad's a voracious reader and a physician, and so I learned that history books were more action-packed than fiction. And so I began to really read a lot of history. I knew about Stalin, Hitler, Caesar, Caligula, the Aztecs. I knew about Pol Pot. I knew about the Khmer Rouge. I knew about the Communist Chinese killing 60 million. I understood that, and I also had already read, I guess I was kind of lucky, when I first read in, I think it was the 8th grade, 1984, I had already knew about Eric Blair because my parents were fans of the man, the pen name, George Orwell, and I knew that he had been in the Imperial Police in India, and I'd already read To Kill an Elephant, and I'd already read about Down and Out in Paris, or parts of it, and some essays that boiled it down, and so I knew that he worked as a propagandist at BBC, so I knew this was him taking reality and kind of conceptualizing it as what he saw as fascism and communism, really at the end of the day being the same thing, these cults of power, and how he saw the West in the future sliding into that by 1984.
I'll be honest with you, I partly wish I'd never read that book, but it's one of those things that permeates everything about you. I think that's my first experience of you. Now, my second experience of you is I've been trying to research exactly what TV program it was. It was something like Louis Theroux, but it wasn't actually Louis Theroux. And you were on telly, and you came across to me at the time as a crazed nutter, and you were banging on about how we're all going to be microchipped and everything's terrifying and all this kind of stuff. And I remember thinking, man, this guy's out of control. He's insane. Now, this is maybe 97 or 98. This is quite early on. Maybe I think you'd been involved in the Waco stuff, and you were this kind of religious right-wing nutter as you came across.
No. I mean, there's a misconception because Wikipedia says it and won't change it. I had exposed that, and along with many others, and there was a film, got Academy Award nomination, Waco Rules of Engagement, that came out in 1995,
right?
Where it showed the Delta Force machine gunning and killing the Branch Davidians, and I'd read the federal documents and knew it was admitted by the Army, but then the national news would say people didn't know what really happened. And so I went and got to know the surviving Davidians, and they weren't what we'd heard. They were certainly weird. And so then one of my friends who was a builder said, oh, they want a memorial chapel for like the 20 survivors to have memorials. And then I put it out on radio, let's build a shack. And all these engineers showed up, took control of it, and built a memorial church. And then it was spun in the media that I was the new Koresh, basically running all of this, which is just absolute pure crap. You can read USA Today, the rest of it. We built a memorial church for all those that died, including the BATF.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because Waco, I mean, I was talking to a guy called Kevin Booth, who I think you know as well, who was involved in kind of filming Waco and filming the stuff that happened there. And Waco's a really important thing.
Well, he was there when it happened. He went with Bill Hicks when Bill was staying with him in Austin shortly before he died. I think he died the same year. And he went out there. And his pancreatic cancer moved so quickly that he didn't even know he had cancer then. And then a few months later, he knew he had it. And a few months later, he was dead. But they actually got on a dirt road and went back and got up closer video than anybody got once it had been cordoned off just a few days before the Delta Force went in and slaughtered those people.
I think Waco had a radicalizing effect on kind of the right-wing conspiracy theory movement, sort of, deep in the heart of Texas.
Well, it is true that I was more right-wing, and I hadn't broken out of the left-right paradigm at that time.
That's right. I mean, this is the thing is I've got that theory about Waco, and I think it's quite significant. But you at the time, you were painted as a religious person. You were banging on about microchips, and I thought you were insane. Right. The third experience that I would have had with you would be, I think, possibly in the film. Richard Linklater film, and I think it's called Waking Life. And you were ranting in that, and it was an amusing rant, and you were a film star. I remember recognizing you at the time, and you were gathering a level of celebrity and fame. What were you going through at that time? What happened in your life?
Well, I've never tried to be in movies, and I've actually been invited to come out to Hollywood and have some medium-sized parts just out of the gates. They want me to play villains, bad guys, corrupt cops. They say that's kind of how I come across as like a tough guy, which I never really thought of myself as that. But Rick Linklater called me. He'd seen my film Police State 2000 in 1999, and Rick had heard people say it wasn't real because it showed videos of Marines training with foreign troops to confiscate our guns and put us in FEMA camps. I'd just gone to an urban warfare drill, and they were training to do this and admitting it. And people thought that I'd hired aircraft carriers and hovercrafts and tanks and wheeled vehicles and Cobra gunships, Super Cobras, helicopters. And Rick was laughing because he'd heard people say that in his office. And he had known actors who were hired by the Marines to play the parts of Americans being put in camps in Oakland, California. And he was just laughing as a director. He said, I've already finished writing this film. It's influenced by Philip K. Dick. It's about dreaming and about, people that live these lives separately dreaming and how that then interfaces with reality. And he said, but the main reason I called you is it's just so funny that people think you could hire aircraft carriers and troops and tanks. Man, this is really a good film. And of course, I'd made it myself, edited it, shot it, put it together. It really wasn't that good in my view. Edited it on a 3/4-inch deck, shot it on VHS with like a $100 camera. And that was because I started out as an Access TV host in 1995, got in a radio show in 96. And so people would say, there's no UN signs at the parks. And I would go get video of it and then made my first film. And so I just fell into filmmaking, and that's how Hollywood got to know me. And so I had a little cameo that they say is the most popular. And then years later, I think in like 2001, that was in 99, and then the film came out in 2000, I got invited to Rick Linklater's ranch, and he's at this huge house he built himself, this huge giant room on top, on the second floor. And there's this huge poster of me. Since this interview's about me, it's weird to talk about myself, but I'm happy to do it. This huge blow-up of me in Waking Life in his house. And, right next to a famous poster from Stanley Kubrick's Paths of Glory, right next to it that covered another wall, the one with Kurt Russell. And so, wow, you're really a fan, Rick. So, of course, I'm a fan. I listen every day. And then he put me in another movie with Keanu Reeves, Winona Ryder, Woody Harrelson, and some other folks, A Scanner Darkly. But the studio kind of took that film away at the end and cut some scenes, extra stuff that I'm in out of it. I'm in one big scene with Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. And so that's how I got to know Rick. And then I had Rick on about a year and a half ago when Scanner Darkly came out. And he had been making a film with Bruce Willis here in Austin. And I'm not a star chaser. I never called him, never bugged him. I knew he was in town. I even got invited to a party, and I just kind of intimidated by it. I didn't go. That happens all the time. I've promised, though, to start doing that. That they keep wanting me to come kind of get involved in all this stuff, and now I'm not going to turn it down anymore because but anyways, I mean, that's a side issue because it's too much of an opportunity to get the word out. I'd rather just do radio and make my own films and write articles, and I'm not even that allured by Hollywood, though most people would kill themselves to be part of it. And he comes on the show about his film, and he just says, oh, yeah, 9/11 is an inside job. I've been handing your films out for years. I gave Bruce Willis your film Martial Law, and I gave him Terror Storm. And he said he's not going to be a neocon follower, a war supporter anymore. He now understands the paradigm and knows it's an inside job. And that blew everybody away. And then 6 months later, Vanity Fair came out when his latest Die Hard came out about a year ago and said Bruce Willis now thinks the government killed Kennedy. And it had the quotes of him saying the people that killed Kennedy run our country now and are basically behind 9/11. So there was the confirmation of that. And then to have Willie Nelson call me up and say that I woke him up 10 years ago and that now he's ready to say it's an inside job, to meet a year and a half ago Governor Jesse Ventura, and to give him some of my films. And he said, well, I know the government staged Gulf of Tonkin to get us into Nam. I know the government staged other stuff. And I know about Northwoods, but I just can't believe they do it. But I do question. Then he's on the show last week with me, and he just goes, I'm ready to go public when we come back out, out of break. And he comes out and says the government basically did it and made it all over AP, TV, hundreds of newspapers. And it's like I got rock bands calling me up, big ones. Most of them don't want to come on air. I mean, of the top 5 Hollywood stars, 4 of them have called me, but they don't want to come on air. All the big names, they all listen. And and I keep my head about it, and I work in my little hovel, my little office here. But it is huge, and the responsibility I've got is just amazing. I'm 34 years old. I'm a hothead. I've got so much responsibility now. So many people listen to what I say, but they found that if they check out what I say, no matter how crazy, it's documented. And I think that's the dynamism that's going here. And my God, I'm counting every day above ground as a good day because I know I am not making the New World Order happy.
Let me come on to that. In fact, like you say, at that point in my life when I saw that first cameo in that film, you were a celebrity in that respect. You were kind of like a crazy, charismatic. Still a nut job, I'm afraid. But that's how I kind of saw you. Then
everything I talked about came true.
Well, it's not strictly true, but...
oh, really?
Well, a lot of it, but listen, let me come on to that next bit. So there's the celebrity aspect, and you are, to a certain extent, definitely a cult celebrity, and that's something I've never heard you speak about before, really. What happened next...
I'm now the king of conspiracy, the icon. But I eschew that label because it's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy fact. And you say a lot of what I've said hasn't happened or isn't going on. Maybe you're just not aware it's going on.
Well, yeah, hang on, let me come on to it. I mean, I want to do this, I want to do this in time, and, we're going to edit this, we're going to turn it into a special. But anyway, yeah, what happened was you kind of, so you're on the fringes as a nut job celebrity would be the way that it would have worked. And then 9/11 happened, and when that happened, I remember being in a radio studio and knowing I didn't know what was happening, and also the confusion of it. Initially, everybody didn't know what was happening, and it was all very confusing. And the next thing we know, we're getting handed a very clear version of events, very clear indeed. And I remember thinking at the time, you and another guy, David Icke, who I'd read of and was aware of and found amusing. I remember thinking of him and you at the time, and then seeing you ranting about it and seeming a little bit more eloquent and making a little bit more sense. How has that period been for you? Because initially, like you say, you were a kind of a fringe nut job, then something like that happened, and now you're becoming certainly making a lot more sense to people.
Well, let's be clear. When I was 21 years old, I was on the air. And I did it out of passion and belief. And I would see incredible things in legislation, incredible things in the back of the newspaper or in industry publications, and I would then cover it. And I started studying even more history, and I learned that it was declassified, that the U.S. government had staged hundreds of terror attacks all over the world, had staged attacks to blame it on Mohammad Mossadegh, to blame it on his government to overthrow Iran. In 53 with the British government, that the Gulf of Tonkin had been staged. And then I saw the news prepping everybody, saying there's going to be terror. When the terror comes, give up all your rights. There's going to be a war on terror. Everything's going to change. And I saw him showing bin Laden on the news. And I knew that the FBI had cooked the bomb, trained the driver, been intimately involved, basically provocateuring the first World Trade Center attack. But they in 93, they did find real Muslims to do it, though. But they were total idiots. Two of them were registered with New York as mentally retarded on welfare. And so it was a provocateur action where they set somebody up. And so I went on air before the attacks, and I said the government's going to stage an attack probably on the World Trade Center. It'll be blamed on their CIA asset, Osama bin Laden. And Jimmy Vaughn, who's a well-known blues singer, Double Trouble, Fabulous Thunderbirds, he got his brother, Stevie Ray Vaughan, into music, lives here in Austin, good friend of mine. He remembers seeing me 2 months before 9/11 on TV for 2 hours straight saying, call the White House. They're going to probably attack the World Trade Center using bin Laden. I was saying, look at how they're getting you ready in the media. Look how they're prepping you. I mean, I saw them introducing the story. And then he'll never forget seeing, and then 2 months later it happened, and he was a big Bush supporter and everything, and that totally changed Jimmy Vaughn. And it totally changed a lot of other people that saw that. And I did that on the radio show for months as well, up until the day of the attacks. And then the day of the attacks, within about 24 minutes, they were on every major TV network saying bin Laden did it, the world's going to change, it's a new world order, we've got to attack these countries. Then I pointed out, and it was in Newsweek, that Bush had 44,000 U.S. troops, 18,000 British troops, 2 aircraft carriers, massed in the different countries around Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, 2 aircraft carriers in the Persian Gulf, ready to attack, and he launched the order to attack Afghanistan in 1 week, the day before 9/11. You see, for 9/11. Mm-hmm. But he had everything massed there in the months before. You don't just mass 44,000 U.S. troops, 18,000 British troops. You see, and then it just goes out from there.
Well, the thing with it is, Alex, is that I often wonder how far, the rabbit hole goes, because, the September the 11th stuff happened, and people like you had been talking about it. And then it happened, and all of the things that you said. I mean, listen, I remember 7/7 here in the UK. The day that happened, I was taking calls, and I was taking calls left, right, and centre from people banging on about how we need ID cards now. Despite the fact that they even acknowledged themselves, the callers themselves were saying, I don't see why ID cards would help, but probably it would be a good thing.
Well, a government study in England, several have said it will make it worse.
So this is what I'm saying to you. How far does the rabbit hole go with these things? September the 11th, I think, for me personally, I'd put a question mark above it, and I say I don't know what happened there. But then with microchips, for example, I remember you talking about microchips, thinking this guy's crazy. And then in this very studio, I've had people who have had microchips stuck in their arm for a bit of fun, and they're just hanging out, and you can get it done down the road from where this studio is. And they're just normal people. They're not far out nut jobs.
Well, listen, how did I know in 96 and 2000 that I said it will be in bars, it will be to get into topless bars, it will be get into luxury cruise ships, it will be to get into security areas who work for the government, it will be given to Alzheimer's patients. And then everybody goes, Alex Jones is Nostradamus, he knows everything. No. The Pentagon in 96 and in 2000, and the Federation of American Scientists put it out both times, said you will have universal adaptations of brain chips in a hive mind with the government controlling everyone and controlling the pleasure centers to where people are literally like the Matrix. That's where they got that, was from government documents, where we'll all basically live in pods and have instant pleasure centers, always taken care of. And that they would start with selling it as implantable chips for security, getting into luxury bars as a status symbol. Now that is in, and then, by the way, that's in my book, Descent into Tyranny. I took the Army documents and put it in there. I mean, the British Ministry of Defense prospectus on the next 10 years, what the military futurists say they believe will happen is flash mobs, martial law. It was the London Guardian published some of it. You can read the whole 125-page report if you want, 120-something. And it says they're going to take all our rights, that the elite are going to wage war against the people, that governments may use neutron bombs to reduce population, bioweapons on us. Dick Cheney wrote in the PNAC document, September 20th, 2000, published by the Project for the American Century, that they want to legitimize in the media the use of race-specific bioweapons to kill certain races. They're all eugenicists. And so all I'm going off of is what they say the plan is. And it's so horrible that you can't get people to believe it because the average person just goes, what, I mean, that's crazy. It is crazy.
That's how I react. Hang on, though. This is the thing, you see. Now, remember my background. I'm coming to this from a perspective where initially, Alex, it was amusing. All right, so I'm looking at it, and I'm looking at you, David Icke, people talking about UFOs, Hollow Earth, all this kind of crazy stuff, all in the same bracket. And I'm thinking, that's odd, isn't it? This is kind of amusing. And then next thing you know, it starts getting real. And this is what I'm saying to you. You know, how far does the rabbit hole go? I mean, one of the things I know, last time I interviewed you, right, I felt like I was kind of in a fight with you. You almost throttled me live on air, which was fine. But but one of the things about it is you said to me very strongly then, you always get cluttered in with the UFO crowd and the nut jobs and stuff like that. So I'm going to test you with a few different conspiracy theories, and you can tell me if there's any truth in them that you know of or not.
Okay, well, let me just first preface it with this, because this is absolutely key, and this is one of the best interviews ever. I love the questions you're asking me, sir. They're just fabulous. I have been successful for several reasons. I mean, I am entertaining, I am bombastic, I am animated, I'm charismatic. That's all natural. I'm just a hillbilly. But I've got a decent brain. My parents are pretty smart. And I've got a decent education. And I had an open mind. But the key is I always stick to what I can prove. And what happens in all of this is you learn you're being lied to about so many things. You learn the world is so much stranger than you originally thought that you then tend to just believe anything that's alternative. And then you immediately, it's like a competition of who can get into the most, extreme things. This is all a false reality or the dream of some great, God, or, we're all aliens ourselves, or Cuckoo from Cocoa Puffs is our leader, or Church of the Subgenius. I don't do that. I stick to what I can prove, what I can document. Go ahead.
Okay, so I want maybe yes or no's for these, and some of this we might not be able to broadcast in the UK because of UK law. So, for example, Diana, was she assassinated? 80+%
of Brits believe she was killed. And all the evidence shows that she was killed, and she said months before that she named who she believed was going to kill her and that they threatened it would be a fake auto accident. So, yes, I believe Diana was assassinated.
Okay, that goes down as a yes. UFOs, yes or no? Are they real?
There are unidentified flying objects, but most of those are government craft. Do I believe that there are other life forms in the universe? We would be incredibly arrogant to think that there wasn't, but I think most of it's hype. I mean, there is no yes or no on that, because I could say yes, that there are unidentified flying objects, but are little green men piloting them? No.
Okay. One of the popular ones, in fact, is that the human race was tampered with by alien beings at some point in prehistory. Do you believe in that?
Now, because I've interviewed a lot of Nobel Prize winners and top geneticists, they're saying that now the more they look at it, the more human DNA compared to other animals, other mammals, looks like it's been manipulated. So again, that's not my area because I can't prove it, but it is interesting.
Okay. How about the idea that the Earth itself is hollow and that you can go inside there and it's got a whole ecosystem and everything within?
No, I don't believe in hollow Earth theories. To the extent of the classic one, if there's a sun in the middle of the earth and there's dinosaurs and pterodactyls flying around smoking cigarettes, and that there's cavemen down there and beautiful maidens in bubble baths. But I do know that there are a lot of subterranean, giant areas that are worlds in and of themselves. I mean, almost the entirety of Texas has a huge aquifer under it. And they've gone into caves that are 100 miles long. They never find the ends of. So I know where those legends come from. So in a technical way, there is a hollow Earth, but not in the kook way of it completely being hollow.
America is soon to be plunged into civil war from which a fascist state will rise.
No, I believe we're defeating them, and I think it'll be a slow slide into third worldom and kind of a collapse like the Soviet Union, which is better than the fascists winning.
Okay. What about the idea of shape-shifting lizards controlling the world?
No, I don't have any evidence to that.
Right. Okay. I mean, these are, like I say, I could go on forever. Do you know? I'm gonna. That kind of covers the main ones for me. But you do get lumped in with those, with that group of people. How are you gonna get away from those kind of theories that you don't believe in?
People develop their own palate, their own bouquet. I mean, they learn to differentiate. It's not my job to do everything perfectly or have all the answers. I've got a duty to tell the truth, to expose the corruption, to try to defend the innocent. And just because you have a huge genre of mainstream media lying, telling the truth, spinning, agents of influence, all of it that's come out, doesn't then mean that the whole alternative media is going to be true. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of these people are just schizophrenics on the internet, who think that their landlady above them is sending proton beams into their head. I mean, that's not my job to respond to all that. People are going to see the things I've talked about coming true and happening, even if they don't check out what I'm saying. If they check out what I'm saying, they're going to find out it's true right away. But even if they don't believe me and all that guy's a nutter, unfortunately, it's going to happen within the next few years, as everything else I've said has. And then they'll go, oh, that Alex Jones, he was right.
One of the most obvious fantasy stories for me personally, and I don't intend to offend you with this, but is the story about religion and the Bible and stuff like that. Because that seems to me, pretty far out. But you're a religious person, right?
Well, I've been brought up a Christian, and my heritage is a Christian, a Protestant, Baptist. And I do believe in the teachings of Jesus, and I do believe in a higher power. And I don't like what the churches have done with it. I'm not a Christian of the mainline Christianity in the U.S., warmongering, praying for giant Cadillacs and SUVs and diamonds. If that's the type of Christian, then I'm not. But I am a Christian that believes in Jesus and follows Jesus Christ. And I am someone who believes in trying to help the weak. And I am someone who believes in the Mosaic common law that is the basis of our Anglo-Saxon 1215 Magna Carta, 1776 Declaration of Independence, Bill of Rights, Constitution. So it is who I am. It is my heritage, and I don't throw out my... See, the globalists want you to throw out your Christian heritage because they want to replace it with their bioethics, eugenics religion, and they're really religious. They just don't want you to know they are. They're really occultist, most of them.
Yeah, one of the things that I've heard, I'm not sure if it was you, because it's hard to distinguish where I get all these conspiracy theories I've heard about from, but one of the sort of conspiracy theories I've heard is that there's an idea to set up a global religion that will tie in to all these ideas. And it seems odd to me, Alex, that you believe in religion, that you have religious faith, even though that's your culture. Listen, you're from America, man. Your culture involves all sorts of things, particularly believing in the reasons for the war in Iraq, and it seems odd that you've challenged those aspects, but not the religious aspects.
Well, I can't get people to admit that they're building FEMA camps, concentration camps, when it's in major newspapers, San Francisco Chronicle, Houston Chronicle. And so I'm not about to wade into the whole religious fight and whole religious debate with people, and that's something that I also don't engage in. I have a news radio show, but I make no secret about that. That I believe in the tenets that are in the New Testament, because if you don't have that, what else are you going to have? You see, what's happening is when I say they're setting up a world religion, the Pope has called for it, the New World Order. When I say, the United Nations has put out thousands of documents saying they want it, but they have to first destroy the other religions. Or try to discredit them so they can then bring in their new pantheistic earth worship religion where the elite play God and where they sell us on carbon taxes, and which are really about controlling human development and activity.
Well, recently we've had Tony Blair making terrifying speeches about religion, which frightened me to the very core. He was banging on about, he's talking about interfaith cooperation and all these kind of...
Exactly. They want to merge all the religions in, and then it's hate speech if you don't agree with every other religion, and then you go to jail. Okay, so that's the attack on your basic Magna Carta. Tony Blair is into religion. He's always acting like he's a humanist atheist, but then he channels the spirit of the light every morning. That's been in major papers. His wife goes to weird religious ceremonies. He flies around to sacred sites to do Aztec rebirthing rituals. He channels the spirit of the light. You live in London. That's well known about Blair, right?
Mm-hmm. But this is one of the things...
But I'm asking you, I'm curious. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, listen, I personally am. Whether or not the people listening to me at the moment are, I don't know.
So there's an example, and then I can go down the line with all these people, and they're completely obsessed with the occult.
Alex, let me stop you there. This is one of the things that initially made me think that you weren't quite on the same wavelength as I, because religion to me strikes me as one of those things that marks someone out as slightly insane.
Well, again, that's what atheists always say to me. They say, why are you covering the Bohemian Grove? The devil doesn't exist. And I go, well, even if you don't believe the devil exists, they do.
Yeah,
and
no,
as,
I get that.
And I mean, as a group consciousness, they are manifesting that.
Yeah, I get that. And
hey, let me just stop you. Have you ever been in the woods? Well, we have family property here in Texas, thousands of acres going back to Spanish land grants. And I'll be out walking on that, a couple times a year when I go there. My whole life I go down there, many times. And one time, I had this feeling someone was watching me, and I walked about 200 yards to the woods to a high tree where somebody was illegally hunting out of season up in a deer stand, and I felt them looking at me. How many times in a restaurant do you feel someone looking at you and you turn and someone is looking at you? The point is there's more to all of this. And all these people try to put it in a box, and these scam artists, religious leaders, I do throw all that out. But what I'm saying is that there's something to it. And the way I manifest that is in my Christian faith, which I believe in.
Well, this is what I'm saying to you, is that I understand that the world is a strange and complex place, but putting my faith in something like the Bible is something that doesn't bear out to me logically.
But it's so popular to hate the Bible. I always do what's unpopular.
I hate the Bible. I'm not saying I hate the Bible. I'm just saying I regard it as nonsense.
But, I mean, have you read the global warming thing is a religious belief?
I agree with that. Yeah, listen, I think that's absolutely right. Yeah.
I mean, have you ever really read the Bible?
Yeah, I have, unfortunately. Do you know, Alex, that's the weird thing. I read a load of stuff I don't believe, and I've read the Bible cover to cover. Honestly.
And you got problems with all the Genesis stuff, right? Like one man and one woman having all the people, and they're all different colors and stuff.
No, not just that. Listen, the whole book is. I mean, a lot of it's such and such begat such and such. But I had to read it for a course at university. I mean, I have read the whole thing, and it doesn't. It doesn't ring true.
I don't even know if I could say I've read the whole thing.
Well, maybe you should. I mean, this is one of the things.
I've read a great deal of it.
It strikes me as one of the sort of incongruities in your character. Do you know what, Alex? We're out of time. I could talk to you forever, for days and days, but we're on air soon, so I've got to go.
Well, listen, I appreciate you, and I hope folks will visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. I hope that plug makes it out there to your fine audience, and I just hope that they'll judge the information for themselves. The point is, I don't have a religious show. I don't think it's an incongruity. I have a show about what the New World Order is doing and what they believe. And so to talk about, who I am and what I believe, what my grandma believes, religiously, I think doesn't even really enter into the equation.
Listen, Alex, the fact that I don't agree with you on everything doesn't mean to say that I don't congratulate you for what you do and wish you to continue.
Well, don't let them fluoridate your water over there in England. All the major studies show it'll reduce your IQ points.
No, not another person telling me that. Listen, I can't be bothered to buy bottled water. They do fluoridize it here, and
they just started, and you won't be as smart in a few years.
Yeah. Oh well. Listen.
Really hurts children bad. Would you read the studies on fluoride?
Yeah, listen, I've had so many people tell me about this stuff. I know what you're talking about, but I'm lazy. I'm fundamentally lazy. I'll get on it, I promise you.
All right, thank you so much.
As long as you look into the religion. Take care, man, all the best.
Thank you.
There we go. And, hopefully it makes sense. And, you're live, aren't you? All right, bye.
Hey, listen, guys, I really appreciate you coming on my show.
No worries. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, there they go, ladies and gentlemen. Now we will continue into hour number 6. I've decided we're going further. In, through, and beyond. Let me give out the number, 512-646-5400. 512-646-5400. It is now 3:52 and 7 seconds Central Standard Time. If you're listening to the audio at Infowars.com or the Internet Infowars streams, they're all over the web. Remember, you can see a live vid cam right now. We have a 2-camera shot in here. We're going to have guest cams in the near future. We also have a document cam, and the document cam also allows us to go to our Internet feed where we can play YouTube videos and things like that for you. There I am on Shoutcast, looking at that at the time. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and go over to Infowars.com right now. Australian man sentenced to 3 years for laser pointer assault on police helicopter. That's right, Al-Qaeda attack. Of course, it wasn't an Al-Qaeda attack, but that's a tyranny, always going after folks for the most basic of reasons. That's my life. I have another interview tonight that I booked myself at 10 p.m., and I did a radio interview last night in Canada. And then I have, that's stuff I set up, and then Trey Kincaid sets up interviews, and Amanda sets up interviews. and I do my local once-a-week TV show. And so this is a day in the life of Alex Jones. Is it tiring just watching it? Well, try doing it. The problem is that I feel great, and I am enjoying this radio show, and I've got a lot of other news I want to cover, so I've decided just to go into the next hour. Sorry, folks, that's just the way it is. 512-646-5400. 512-646-5400. And I see that we have a mass of phone calls here that we aren't going to take now. And I'll probably only go 10, 15 minutes in the next hour because I want to miss traffic going on to see my children. Then I'm going to sneak back tonight and do some work. Unless, I think Rob takes off once or twice a week when he wants. I don't think my main editor, Aaron's out there working studiously, doing a great job, multifaceting out the window. In fact, you want to see Aaron, folks? Hey, you come in here, please, and aim the camera at Aaron. No, you can't aim it. The other fella can aim it. Dr. No can aim it. And just to swivel over so we can see the illustrious Aaron right out there working studiously. And then you can see me on camera, too. Hello, everyone. You know, I get hyper when I'm doing the 3-hour show because we run out of time. But now I can relax and be more expansive. Maybe I can even do some Shakespeare for you. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the... Okay, I'm going to stop. We're going to go to your phone calls right now. Don't forget prisonplanet.tv. You know what? I think the Brits are still connected. I think the redcoats are being sneaky. I'm going to disconnect them myself. There, I've disconnected them. I love this new setup in here. Just buttons everywhere. I can have some fun. I am going to be dead dog tired later. But, you know, I usually do... There was a time in my life where I did 6 hours a day on Genesis, and I was doing 2 or 3 interviews a day then, so that was probably about 8 hours a day. I've done 14 hours of broadcast before. I've counted it up. I don't do that anymore. I turn down most of the radio stations that want to do interviews. And I'm always guilty when I turn them down. I'm always guilty I go on and don't plug my videos. I didn't plug them on that last show. And I'm always, because I need to get them out to people, plus it gets funds in here. And I'm always guilty that I... What else was I guilty about? Oh, I'm guilty when I don't take the interviews. Because when I don't take the interviews and I go, oh, man, I would have talked to tens of thousands of people. Okay, enough about me. I got in the habit of talking about myself during that interview. Let's go ahead and take calls. Jeremy in Alaska, holding like a trooper. You, my friend, are on the air.
Yes, Alex, I'd like to say that I've heard about you for a long time. A couple people pointed me in your direction before I ever even heard about you. Have you heard of Dr. Ken Hovind?
It rings a bell. Refresh my feeble memory.
Oh, this is a guy that went around and tried to prove that the Bible is a scientific fact, and he give people $250,000 to prove one fact of evolution.
Oh, yeah, I know who that is, yeah.
And then there was Tex Mars.
Yeah.
And then Myron Fagan.
Yes? What about those guys?
Well, it was just very interesting about them because every time anybody would try to challenge their truth, they didn't have any very valuable arguments. And I noticed that whenever you spout truth, people can't even phase it. It's just like they just hide and all that kind of stuff. And what I've noticed from the Word of God is it says the wise man will hear and increase learning, and that and the beginning of wisdom is to fear the Lord, and to fear the Lord is to hate evil. And I noticed that our actions have been doing this, and I noticed that a lot of people that we come across when we focus on 9/11 and all this kind of stuff, we run into a lot of spiritual wickedness. A lot of people that are very weak, they don't believe in God because their education system, they've been misinformed.
Well, if you don't believe in God, you're going to believe in the world, and the world's pretty wicked. So, bottom line, we see healthier societies when they actually do follow what's in the Bible versus what we're doing today. And there's no doubt about that. I mean, just the health laws alone are very sensible. And I appreciate your call. You know, again, I'm not going to get into religious debates or arguments here. It's just that almost every time I'm on British radio, they want to attack religion. It's real trendy to do that, and my Christianity. And it's a diversion, it's a distraction, but they can't help it. Let's go ahead and talk to Anthony in Ohio. You're on the air.
Oh, hey, Alex.
Hey.
You there?
Yes, sir.
All right.
How do you like the new format?
I love it. It's interesting to see you on the video there. Like
picking my nose, just like I did. The problem is I'm on camera so much I can't control myself.
A lot of interesting points your callers brought up. First of all, I'll kind of go through these real quickly. I had a lot of points on kind of blaze through them. First of all, the whole religious thing. I was actually an atheist before I kind of woke up to all this. And, I started trying to kind of understand this whole elite, why they're doing this. And, I mean, it really starts to wake you up and you realize, wow, these people are just, they're evil. I mean, I don't really consider myself any
well, that's like
religion,
B.F. Skinner, wrote several books with, titles about just total human suffering, and they said, oh, it's all scientific. So what if you kill a bunch of people or kill your own kid? It's just beyond good and evil. Well, again, they tell you there's no good and evil, so you can't make moral decisions, so they can make all the decisions. Once they tell you that they're only telling you to be relativist, so you're like floating around. It's the old country song. You got to stand for something, or you'll fall for anything. Not a puppet on a string. And of course, there's all the religious nuts too. Believe me, I get sick of those type of people. But the best people I know, the hardest working, the folks fighting the New World Order, the people that are really sweet and deep, they are Christian. And I've also met some Buddhists that are really sweet, nice people, but mostly Christians. And so you also judge a tree by its fruits. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was raised Christian, but what really threw me off, before I really opened up to the left-right paradigm, was all these mainline Christians, talking about we have to nuke the Middle East and, bomb this and that, hate all this, and just spewing out all this hate. And I was just like, man, I don't want to, seeing all these mainline religious people, not really, whatever, they're kind of compartmentalized, but just seeing all them kind of, spewing all this hate, that's kind of what drove me away. And then, being young and rebellious. And that was the whole kind of point with the religious part, but, But anyways, second thing, as far as the no plane thing, it's junk.
No, I mean, the videos they put up, most of them, it's just totally mentally ill. Because you got a lot of mentally ill schizophrenics and people, and I'm not being mean, but that's really who they are. I've met some of them. And then, you've got the controllers up above them, and it's real funny.
Well, it's like, why don't you focus on tangible evidence? Why don't you focus on tangible things? I mean, okay, so there's a 0.00.1% chance, they might have been space beams. Okay, well, whatever, why don't you focus on the tangible evidence, such as bombs going off the building, the BBC, reporting that, that the buildings fell, but they were clearly in the background. I mean, focus on tangible things, and these no-planers, they just sit around and say, no planes, and it's totally a way that makes us look like,
Well, it's meant to get us to debate it instead of staying on track on the serious issues, and it's meant for the national media to attack us. The national media always brings that up, but never brings up all the serious issues. I appreciate your call. Now, here's the deal, folks. I've decided to go to the 20 after. How long's the Japanese TV thing that we've never streamed live? This is an interview I did like a year ago with Japanese TV in New York, and we just posted on PrisonPlanet.tv, but I want to stream it live for everybody, so even if you're not a PrisonPlanet.tv member who can't see the video, either on a high-quality download or on the stream, you can at least hear the audio. I think it's a pretty good interview. I guess Aaron went and got something to eat. How dare him, after working since 9 this morning straight through, being sarcastic. It doesn't matter. Just however long the Japanese TV is, we're going to play that in about 10 minutes when I end here, or 15 minutes. I guess to be technical, 17 minutes and 20 seconds. Let's go ahead and... By the way, if you just tuned into the streams, you're used to the 3 hours, 3-hour live Genesis show, and you just popped in, and you're going, what is this? There's no commercials, there's no music, there's no bumpers. It's Alex on a little bit more relaxed format. What's going on? I've been doing Genesis Radio for 11 years. I have been doing 3 hours a day for 10. I have been doing syndicated radio for 12. I've been doing radio for 13 and access about 6 months more than 13, getting close to 14. And I have added a 4th hour. Well, now you're hearing a 5th hour. In fact, now we're into the 6th hour. How many hours are we? 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's 5, and now we're into the 6th hour. We're going into the 6th hour here. And you're going to hear me do a 4th hour almost every day. Some days you'll see new video productions and things in the 4th hour. It's going to be on Genesis. Stations want it, and we need to be on the Star Guide, the shortwave, the AM and FM dial. So we're going to do that. But I'm having a fun for a few weeks without the commercials. And then sometimes I may, even when that 4th hour is over, I may just do 20 minutes of calls and, that's not on GCN. A lot of times when I'm doing interviews now here at the office, most of them I do at home, and people want to do it on ISDN or even Phone Patch, I'll just put the headphones on and you'll suddenly see an icon on the website on Prison Planet and InfoWars that says, Alex will be live today on this show, and you'll see video of it. And we'll pump in the audio feed of the show, whether it's something in Salt Lake City or New York or South Africa or London. And as you just heard last hour, we're going to do that too for you. And we're also going to take these 4th hour shows, or sometimes when they're 5th hour, 6th hour shows, might be an hour, might be 3 hours long. Hell, I might do 5 hours today. And we're going to take them and we're going to put them up there for PrisonPlanet.tv members. In fact, what's our ETA when I end this in about 10 minutes to having this uploaded? And so Watson, before he goes to sleep at about 6. Okay, so, yeah, well, that'll be fine then. We'll be off here by about 4:30. He goes to bed, quits working about 6:30 our time Central. That's like midnight in England. And, oh, yeah, it's fun fighting the New Order. I got to tell my employees to stop working. They're like thoroughbred horses that'll run till their hearts burst. We enjoy our work around here, ladies and gentlemen. And, it all rolls downhill, so look how much I work. So everybody likes to work. But it's fun to work. It's fun to do the work of hurting the New World Order. Okay, that's enough. I'm babbling. It's out of control. You are now in the emergency overdrive, hour number 6 of the radio show. Every weekday, 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right, let's go ahead and take a call from John in Austin, Tejas. You are on the air.
Just 2 quick things. So I wanted to talk to you about the religious thing, and I'm a Christian myself, and I attend Shoreline Christian Center, and I'm really looking for, I guess, current events to be talked about. I go in there, and it's real Jesus focused, everything about the focus on Jesus, and that's great and awesome.
But Jesus was always focused on fighting and exposing the corrupt government, but they tell you, no, it's all about how to be happy and how to make money and how to feel good and to go out to eat after the church service.
Right. So I just, I really would like to attend a church that would actually talk about current events and how that ties into the religious factor and just, what's going on in the world today. And I just don't hear any of that, and it's kind of frustrating. At the same time, I'd like to go and learn because I'm a new Christian. It's just all really confusing for me.
Well, I mean, look, 23,000, what's 2 times? No, 26,000. 26,000 preachers have been recruited the last 2 years, and it's every major megachurch that we've looked into is in it. I mean, if you go there for a year, you will probably hear about when an emergency comes, do as the government says, Romans 13, we must serve. And then if a disaster happens, you go to church, he's going to be there going, taketh the chippeth of the Lord, submit unto the government. And that's, take the inoculations, go to the centers, hand in the devil guns. And that's because most of them are on the payroll of the government. And they've been told, you do this, and you'll keep your 501c3. Well, I thought Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. But 50 years ago, they said, oh, you've got tax exemption under the First Amendment. Just fill out this form. And then they roped you into turning a right into a privilege, just like concealed carries do. Turns a right into a privilege.
Wow. Another thing I wanted to ask you about. I hope I don't. I hope you don't get upset.
No, it's fine. Do it fast though, because whoever is in the background is being really loud.
I seen a video that was just recently added on YouTube about you were talking. A guy was asking you a question from what was it, Project Think or something like that, or Progressive Think. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I'll plug it after you're gone, and then I cussed at him.
Yeah.
Look, hey, listen, I appreciate your call, my friend.
Okay, take care, Alex.
Yeah, you bet. This show is not about Alex Jones and what Alex Jones does. And I think in many years of on the radio, I've never cussed at somebody. But I thought there have been discussions about it. Hey, when you do this, you can cuss if you want. And I thought, well, I don't cuss a lot in person, so why should I? And then that individual is kind of a follower of some other individuals who've really said lying, bad things about me and my family. I mean, the worst stuff you can say. I mean, unbelievable lies. And so I just thought I'd say F you a couple times. And then right after I said it, I said, look, I'm sorry I said that. I sound like an idiot. So I sound like an idiot. So what? I'm real, man. This isn't a joke or an act or anything else. And, yeah, I just don't burn with hatred of Israel. But I've also taken a lot of hits for criticizing Israel. I've paid. I mean, I've lost radio stations. I've gone through a lot. And it makes me mad that a bunch of people who are playing in the little leagues, who I wish would play in the bigger leagues, just have this. But that, I think that person means, well, I really thought about it afterwards. That person hasn't said that much. It's prothink.org, I think. They haven't said much, really, a few bad things about me that weren't true. But overall, it's more of followers of people that one of them's completely out of their minds and the other, I'm not sure what is, but, if I wanted to waste time, there's no doubt I can get judgments against them. But enforcing the judgments is harder. People better watch out, though. My wife lived in France a long time and speaks fluent French. It's a lot easier to get stuff done, and we have family over there, and I know how to get people internationally, in court and get judgments against them. But it's hard to squeeze blood out of a turnip. And I just don't like people talking about my family and lying about them and, saying things that aren't true, and I blew up about it. Because, I'm a mean son of a bitch. And I'm not, and by the way, I'm not on some totem pole here about, I'm Christian, so I'm all, tiptoeing around and I'm telling you how to live. So, there's a video of Alex drinking a beer on the internet. When I go through cycles in my life and I'm drinking beer, I don't hide it when there's a video camera. I talk about how I drink sometimes or how I have problems with cigarettes. None of that matters compared to him putting sodium fluoride in the water. Don't let your 18-year-old drink. It's of the devil. You'll go to hell. But let's, let them drink sodium fluoride that eats holes in their brains. See, it doesn't matter to me. Let's get into real issues here, ladies and gentlemen. Real issues. Just amazing. All right, now I'm really going to turbo blast because we're running out of time here. Barney in OK, Oklahoma. Go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I was just wanting to laugh with you in your interview with that gentleman from England. And also, I wanted to get your view on, I believe his name is William Cooper, who said that the guy who killed JFK was the driver.
Yeah, that's not true. He also said there's flying UFO submarines our government has, and there's aliens controlling everything with big, eyeballs and giant heads. And I don't want to talk bad about William Cooper. And here's the problem. You see how call after call is about this soap opera of who likes what group and who's behind what group. And my show has never really been about that. And William Cooper got really jealous of me and viciously attacked me and said lies about me and would take 9 hours. I did 9 hours of radio one day, and he took it and all edited it together to make it sound crazy. There's lots of those things on the web now. Other people are doing it. And just people with brains see through. And I was really sad when Bill got killed. I'd talk to folks that knew him. He'd run around waving guns in town, screaming, flipping out. He put out a call on his website, help me, the IRS is coming after me. I called him, in like 98 and said, come on, sir, I'll raise some money for you. And he started cussing at me on the phone. You stupid little bastard, you don't know anything. I know everything. And I said, well, I still want to have you on, try to help you. He started cussing on the show, so I would delay him out. KGFK had a delay. And then I said I had to let Bill Cooper go. He was cussing. And then there was a big controversy that I was a liar. No one heard the cussing. Well, you idiots, there's a delay. And then now here we are talking about Bill Cooper. And this is not what this show is about. I appreciate your calling. I'm not mad at you. It's just, Bill Cooper talked about everything he talked about was documented, and I've seen 2-hour presentations he'd do about UFOs. See, I was never into UFOs. And then I had people mail me Behold a Pale Horse after I'd been on air a few years. And I thought, man, this is really kooky and weird. It's got a cool name, though. And then I'd maybe heard him 5 times. And then people accuse me of, he just copies what Bill Cooper says. I hope everybody copies what I'm saying. I'm not copying what he said, but, it's not, well, he predicted 9/11 before you did. Well, I have to say that he kind of did. Who cares? That's good. I mean, nobody said he didn't have a great radio personality and talk about a lot of real stuff. I didn't know that. I did a 2-hour show and said the government will probably attack the World Trade Center and blame it on bin Laden. They're going to stage terror attacks, call the White House, tell them don't do it. He did a vague show about, they say bin Laden's about to get us. Well, the CIA, here's a BBC article or whatever, where the CIA met with him and is managing him. So, boy, isn't that suspicious? They might stage something. I think mine was more clear, but who cares? Good. I was on air saying in July, I think he like a month before was on air, not saying call the White House, but saying something's up. Because, man, how could you not? They were on air prepping everyone for the attack, going, there's going to be an attack, give all your rights up when it happens. It isn't about who predicts something. It's about, it's like 10 guys invented radio the same month. The technology gets to a certain level and then it gets invented. The point is now we've got radio. I mean, I go to bed every night thinking about, are they going to kill me? Are they going to set me up? I've been attacked before, everything else. And I'm just trying to live. I'm just trying to be a good person. I'm just trying to warn people and really find out the truth. And, again, there's this balkanization that happens naturally. It's like religious groups splinter into thousands of different sects, organizations. And the same thing in the Patriot movement. I'm the church of the conspiracy theory, I guess, but I'm not really. I cover real information. And then you've got all these wild other little denominations that are just like hating my guts. And I wish that they could end up meeting movie stars or end up meeting bankers or end up meeting people, because then you find out it's boring and it really doesn't do anything. Unless they're really cool people like Willie Nelson or Charlie Sheen or some of the other folks I know, because it's cool because they're neat people. But not cool because people know who you are or you get the best table at the restaurant and turn into a fat ass. I wish they could experience it and find out that just because every time I get another big star on or break some other big news story, because I've got the name out there and people feel comfortable coming here and doing it, it makes my brethren hate me even more, like it's about me. It's not. I'm trying to kick the New World Order's butt here. Not, everybody who knew Bill Cooper knew that. In the last year, he would just go crazy and start screaming and yelling and cussing. And then about a couple years ago, one of his people that worked with him was putting out a book or a video or something about him. And I thought, I'll bury the hatchet. I'll call up. And I'll be real nice and invite the guy on the show and have him on and plug Bill's work. I said, I don't totally agree with all of it, but I'll just be nice. I used to be like this. I still try it sometimes. I tried it last night. We'll see what happens. And I call up and the guy goes, what the hell do you want? And I was like, well, I know there was some, problems and things, but I do want to come on and talk about the positive things. He was just being real rude and saying stuff to me and about, this is the way it is if I come on. I said, look, that's okay. Just forget it. And I hung up. Almost like it was a stick or an act or something. I'm the captain of this thing, fool, scum. Just blah. There's a lot of people who get into this because they want to be egomaniacs. They want to be stars. They want to make money. And I'm not saying people liking you and thinking you're cool isn't fun, but it wears off. And I'm not saying having a little extra money isn't cool. But with me, I can't even enjoy the little bit of money I've got. I'm too busy fighting the New World Order all the time. I got into this because they were coming after my guns in 1995. They were burning down churches. They had blown up a building. And I knew it was the government because I was aware of false flag terror, and I saw, what was his name? It wasn't Jeff Davis. It was a guy before him. Jeff was kind of goofy, but I was friends with him locally on Access. I'd watch him in 93, 94, 95. I want to say Kelly something. He moved to Idaho. God, he was a character. And he at first was all into the Zionist running and all when I saw him like in 92, 93. And then he found out there was groups above that. And he was all about the documents. He was at libraries all the time. And Kelly, man, I got to get him on. But I tried to before. He just never goes, no, you can't save him. It's all over. I'm not coming on. that guy was kind of, because I already knew about I'd read a lot of history books and things, so watching him, I just knew. And then he didn't want to go on air because he wanted to be private, so he kind of used Jeff Davis as his front. What was his name? I call Mike Hansen. Mike Hansen worked with him, too. He was a character. But that guy was for real. That guy really knew his stuff. And he came to this conclusion that it was a British oligarchy merged with the Rothschilds, and that they really are occultists, and he got a lot of their documents and things. But I'd already read about Khazarians and all that, but he showed me books, and I read books he had. What is his name? I can't even remember people's names now. I don't want to say that I got it mixed up with somebody else's name because I know the last name, but it's a wrong last name. As soon as I'm off air today, I'll remember his name. You know what? I'm going to call Mike Hansen right now. Oh, that's the line with the callers on it. I don't have a phone. I'm going to call him over here because I'm going to call Mike and see if he remembers Kelly's name. Mike Hansen. Oh, man. This is real radio, folks. I mean, this is my daily life here, so we'll just start. We are strongly considering having a wireless cam and just doing like once a week, maybe 24 hours a day. Even while I'm snoring, we'll have the camera on. You'll even get to hear late-night flatulence. Okay, a little attempted humor. He's not going to answer. Hey, Mike, it's Alex. How you doing, bro? Good. Hey, we got are you going to be coming into town anytime from Gonzales? Nothing. I just thanks for the nice card with the new baby that came in. I just say hi to your wife. But listen, I'm on the radio and I can't remember the name. Who was the guy that started Jeff Davis and everybody off? Kelly something? You can't remember it either. Remember Remember he drove around like in super cool army jeeps and stuff? What was his name? It's driving me crazy. It's driving me crazy. You can see him, yeah, the cowboy hat, everything. Idaho, yeah.
I can find out if you can call me back.
Okay, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. Hey, how you doing, buddy? Well, we've lost touch. I sure miss you. Well, come into town with the wife and kids. Man, the kids are grown up, aren't they? Doesn't one of yours have already 2 kids or something? That's amazing. Yeah, I hadn't talked to you in about 6 months. Okay, Mike, I'm going to call you back. See you, bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take 7 more calls and we're done. Who's up next? Nick in Colorado.
Hey, Nick. How's it going?
Hey, man. How you doing?
Pretty good. Hey, I love your new show, but I got to say it makes it kind of hard to concentrate during work.
Well, that's country isn't producing anything anyway, so just enjoy yourself.
Yeah. Hey, somebody called in about Aaron Russo's film earlier, and I was hoping they would ask, but they didn't. Obviously, tax season's coming up really quick, and I was just wondering what your take on that is. I mean, I have a lot of taxes I got to pay, and I don't really want to, but I also don't want to go to jail.
Well, it's force de jure, or, just the unstoppable force. And it's piracy. It's letter of marque. It's that they got the big guns, they can do it. It is private. It is a fraud. It is offshore. It is a scam. It is properly incorporated. The states didn't ratify it. That's admitted. It is a scam. It is to control you. It is a plank in the Communist Manifesto. It does go to private banks. Not 1 cent of it goes to pay off or buy anything in the government or pay for anything. It all goes to debt. But the IRS will wait 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. And if you ever want to own anything or be in the system, they will end up coming after you. But even if you pay them, grovel, hire CPAs, lick their boots, kiss their butts, they will still probably steal what you've got. The difference is they'll just steal a bunch of your money instead of throwing you in prison where big jail guards rape you. So people say, well, you say the IRS is a fraud, but then you say, go ahead and pay them. I'm not saying don't pay them. It's like Aaron Russo said. It's the mafia. He made the decision to not pay him, but he said, look, he's willing to put up with him coming and trying to break his legs. And now it turns out he did have hits out on him. That's in the New York Times. But have you heard about that with Pelicano and all that?
No.
Yeah, just Google Aaron Russo. It was in the New York Times like 2 weeks ago. The Pelicano trial came out. It was a trial of this billionaire hedge fund guy, but it came out that Pelicano admitted that, he talked about having Aaron Russo killed for this movie producer, saying Aaron had ripped him off $1.5 million or something. But that's a side issue. Just truth is stranger than fiction. But Aaron had the analogy of the mafia breaking your legs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the conclusion I came to. I just don't like it very much, obviously.
I hear you. Well, look. It's designed so people with accountants can get out of a lot of the taxes.
Right.
I appreciate your call.
That was about it. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, here's the deal. I don't buy that much stuff other than take friends out to dinner and go on a vacation maybe once a year. And most of my money's in my business, so I don't end up paying that much taxes. I do spend a bunch of money with accountants double-checking stuff so those bastards can't, because I know I'm a target. And they've tried stuff. They've done spot audits and stuff, and we just send it to them. And I know it violates my Fifth Amendment. I have a right to remain silent. I haven't been arrested, indicted, nothing, and they're demanding all this crap from me. Oh, the cleaning crew's here. They come once a week. What am I going to do? Let's take another call. Let's talk to Zach in Indiana.
Hello, Alex Jones. How you doing?
Good. It's a never-ending radio show.
It's a great idea, I think, to be completely honest with you, but you need sleep and whatnot. My question is that I understand that starting the whole revolution from our home of USA is the first place to start, obviously. But I was more interested in wondering around what's going on in, say, like Africa and Asia and places that we don't get as much information as we could. Like, how would one go about obtaining more of that?
You mean you want to know information about what's happening in Africa and places, or you want to know how to reach to them and warn them?
Well, I guess the first idea would be to see exactly what's going on there. From my understanding, a lot of political borders and things along those lines are getting moved around more than what we think, or what I think, mainstream news doesn't really tell us what's going on in the world. So the general thought is that you would have to come to GCN or someone like you to get that kind of information. And your main focus is on the U.S.
Yeah, but this is kind of the main engine of the New World Order right now, run out of Europe and England and Israel and a few other places. But this is the main engine. The main engine is shifting more towards Europe, more towards Asia now by design. And I appreciate your call. Let me just briefly say that if you want to know what's happening in Africa, I go to UN websites because they admit it, but always put a good spin on it. If you want to read, you can read all the African newspapers. You can get it from different sides, have experts on about it, keep track of what's happening in Asia. It's addicting. You always want to know what's happening, what's going on. I feed all that data and knowledge into my basic info, but I'm only a limited person, with a limited perspective of what's going on in the world. And I understand kind of organically what the larger computers do with algorithms to see trends. Well, that's the art form of the human mind. I can see trends just in kind of gestalts in larger pictures by studying it. Over time, more and more integrates, and the picture gets clearer and clearer. And then also you begin to understand human activities, human interactions throughout history that tend to be the same. Then you can put a high-tech overlay on it and kind of see the architecture, where it's growing, what it's doing, trending out. And then even foreseeing problems the New World Order will have, or unforeseen things that might help them. It basically gets into chaos theory and then information warfare, integration, into the public just getting outside the set paradigms of the map makers of the mind, making their own maps and going without that and becoming bold, not watching as much television, integrating with their friends and family, others on the internet, getting back to more of a tribalism base, but in a populist view of the population against the elite, but not believing, through the false paradigm the elite gave us, that populism means communism to take the rich's money, because the rich actually created it to take the middle class's money, which the poor think are the elite, to then transfer it to the elite. Let's go ahead and talk to Clay in Texas. Clay, you're on the air. Yes.
Hey, I want to say, one of my favorite things about you is you treat all your callers with respect. I think that's admirable.
Unless I'm cussing at them. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was calling actually about when you were talking about Christianity earlier. I've had that argument, that same argument with a lot of English people and Canadians too.
Well, yeah, they think it's real trendy to not believe in anything and then not think there's anything going on that we don't know about.
Yeah, and he was trying to call you out on some pretty kooky conspiracy theories. You know, you could have fired back at him if he believed in the conspiracy theory.
Well, I think the guy overall was trying to be nice, but he wants to play both sides. Like you said, I was on live with him a while back ago. I vaguely remember it, and I hammered the hell out of him, and you heard him say that.
Yeah.
And so he was kind of, controlling it by, he had a live, he had a tape show, and he was letting me know that he even joked around with, "We're going to get you now." But it doesn't matter. The transmission was already sent out in full.
Have you heard the conspiracy theory where they say that there wasn't even a Jesus at all?
Yeah, look, Zeitgeist is, the second and third part is excellent, spot-on info. And I appreciate your call. But the first third of it, and I haven't seen the latest version, it's just absolute crap. And it's just made up, shoddy disinfo. And so what do you say to that? Okay, let's go ahead and talk to Casey in Oklahoma. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi Alex, how you doing? I really enjoy the new extended hours radio format you got going. So thanks for
thank you
for doing that. Actually, I sent this to Trey and Aaron over the weekend because I was on hold on your Sunday show and didn't quite get through because the end of the show came. But I work in the government, and we got an email a little while back, a couple weeks ago, about the compact fluorescent light bulbs. And
admitting they have masses of mercury in them and they're deadly poison?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we all know that's the case, but the way the email was phrased was like, well, in fact, the subject was, "Are compact fluorescent lamps harmful in your family?" And it acted like, take care and do this, and open up all your windows, and everything will be just fine. And it actually, it says you're being encouraged, and it didn't say anything about the new law that Congress passed at the end of last year or anything like that. So I just thought it was pretty, here's another example of the spin trying to go out from the government to its employees about how, this is what you need to do, and downplaying all the risks, especially with the mercury.
No, I hear you. That's what they do. Highly toxic lights. They actually know how to make a phosphorescent bulb that gives you the nice yellow light that the human brain and the optic nerves like. Your eyes are just brain stalks that grow out during fetal development, during embryonic development. And they are eyes into the soul, literally. Beautiful little brain stalks, blue, green, brown, black, and looking into someone's mind. And how did I get off into eyes? Phosphorescent. I'm pretty tired now with no break. Phosphorescent, they have those that last 8 years. But they've just decided it's going to be fluorescent, which are associated with seizures, depression, everything else, because they, quote, use less power. So that's also better for the earth. And so now it's the law. In a few years, you won't be able to get the wondrous phosphorescent. You'll never see that pretty yellow light again. It'll all be green nightmare light. And then they're filled with lead and mercury, and that totally toxic. If one breaks in your house, you're supposed to call a hazmat team. Just like they said, put MBTE in all the water supplies and all the gas, and now it's in 49 states and causing massive birth defects and totally toxic, and just so happens to sterilize people. Oh, accidentally in the water. I appreciate your call, sir.
Yeah,
and great points. Good to hear from you. Okay, I'm giving each person 30 seconds. I am getting tired, and I want to air this Japanese TV interview, and then we'll go back into regular retransmission until I'm live tomorrow. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that you can hear this for free on the audio streams at Infowars.com, but please help us spread the word. By the way, we put a mass email out today on the email list. I asked Paul to get me this morning to do that. I forgot. We need to do that by tomorrow, so all the folks don't know we're doing this now. I want to ask the listeners to tell folks about it on the message boards and help us, because I'm committing to do this and kind of inaugurating it with these first few shows going overboard. I'm going to keep it down to 1 hour in the future here. Except it is kind of fun. I'm tired, though. I want to go jog right now, and it's getting a little late. I'm going to have to hit traffic now getting home. But when you get a PrisonPlanet.tv membership, I just realized I've done almost 5.5 hours. No, I have done 5.5 hours. I never plugged my videos today. That's how you support us in the IT and all the stuff we're doing is getting a PrisonPlanet.tv membership. Then you get the document cam, and you get the 2 cams. that are on me, and we're going to have a guest cam. It's already set up in here, and we've got DVD where we can play videos, and we can also show you the web. We're going to be playing videos off that. So instead of me just talking about a YouTuber playing the audio, we can show you what's happening on the web. So there is a lot going on at PrisonPlanet.tv, not just my weekly report or all the videos that are there, all my films in super high quality, and the CDN servers we've got sending it out to you super fast, a lot better than it used to be. I mean, it's getting better and better. And then you get the 4th hour live with the video at PrisonPlanet.tv. Okay, let's go to Kevin in Virginia. You're on the air, Kevin.
Hey, Alex.
Yes, sir.
Listen, man, I know you got to go. I know you're tired, but listen, besides my mother and father, you're another one of my heroes, man. I appreciate you.
Well, I love you too, Kevin.
Thank you, man. I want you to know that I love when you digress, too, because that opens up a whole wealth of knowledge and information that, we need. I wanted to talk to you yesterday when you had Alan Watt on, and, he made a point that all of these things that are happening with the New World Order, they're passed on from generation to generation. And I wanted to ask you, I want to ask you two things, but the first thing is the grand architect, the author of all of these things, is it the devil? It has to be.
That's who they believe. No, at the top, at the White Brotherhood, at the very top, they have the Red Brotherhood and the Black Brotherhood beneath that. And that's all admitted, and I've been to one of their ceremonies and seen it. Just like I was always told, black, red, and then white in the middle, that they really believe Lucifer is God, and they believe Jesus is the bad guy.
Right. And, it just amazes me how much the New World Order hates us, and we've done nothing to them. But, we keep pushing.
Oh, yeah, you enjoy your food, you enjoy your wife or girlfriend, you enjoy blue skies and green trees, and you like helping old ladies. Man, they don't like that.
Exactly. I take care of my mother, so I appreciate life,
That's right. They love chaining people down, innocent people. They love killing babies. They love raping women and ripping their teeth out with pliers and burning them with acetylene torches. Why do psychopaths do what they do? They like it. They're their boss, man. They're the winners.
Right. Listen, a couple more things, and I'm gonna let you go. I'm from New York. I'm in Virginia now, but growing up in New York, I didn't know the realization of what's going on, but you can feel it. You can feel the police state and just the anarchy and everything going on, and it's just terrible now. I have a daughter there now. I want to get her out of there, but I know there's no escape. Another thing I wanted to just ask you about, Bob Marley is one of my heroes. Did they do him like they did, other patriots and other...
Yeah, reportedly they stuck some type of injector in his shoe that gave him a fast-acting cancer virus, and we know that declassified, they had him in the 50s where they give you a shot. They need to usually get it into you. It's hard to go through the skin. I'm sure they have that now. But you put there's like a little bitty needle in your shoe, or they bump into you and scratch you, or they put it in your food or water, but they need to get it in the blood, usually because the stomach can block it, and you'll be dead in a month of cancer.
Alex, thank you for letting me on your marathon show, man. Like I said, I love you, man.
Well, we love you, too. We love liberty and freedom and all the people that want it. Danny in Tennessee, and then Ron and Derek, and that's it. Go ahead.
Alex?
Yes, Commander.
Hey, I haven't talked to you in a long time, and it's really nice to be back on the air with you. I think the last time I called you, I told you I was thanking Christina Ebersole back then when she came out, and, when you were in New York and everything. And we talked about vaccines. But I want to tell you, Alex, that you give me a lot of strength. You help me out with the way you handle your business. And I'm a little down and out right now. I just lost my little son.
You lost your son?
Yeah, he was stillborn. It was right around when you were going to have your baby that you had, because I was going to have one and you just had one. But I lost him, and I've been, I wanted to fight and do a lot of things and maybe see if something wasn't done right, because my wife had a lot of risk signs, where they were saying, they were monitoring her a lot. They gave her a lot of appointments, and she had to go all the time, and they were checking everything out. And he was doing fine. He was growing. He was getting bigger and bigger. Everything was fine. And my wife's kind of petite, but she had a lot of pain in her back, and it was just.
So are you a big man?
Me? No, I think I'm probably about your size, Alex. You know what I mean? As far, you mean build?
Well, you know,
Little wives,
sometimes, in the past they told big men with little wives to tell the women to watch how much they eat. Now they don't do that, but it actually was a good thing to do. A lot of, but I'm really sorry to hear about your son, but you know he's in heaven, and you know just God's got his reasons, and just have another one.
Yeah, that's the way I feel.
Don't give in to death. You know, people say the world's so bad. People say the world's so bad. Don't have kids. No, we got to fight. And, you know, I mean, we had our ancestors came across on leaky boats, having babies in the bottom of ships in huge storms with rats everywhere. And, you know, black folks came here on slave ships where half of them died. There's always adversity, and we have to struggle and continue to live and continue the life force no matter how bad it gets.
Yeah, you know, this...
And I guarantee you, your son had dreams, your son had experiences before he died, and, you know, it's just... and there's always reasons. You'll never know what that reason is, but, you know, who knows?
Yeah, he was stillborn. You know, he was a week before he was due.
Did your wife take any vaccines?
No, well, that's another thing. We weren't going to do any of that. You know, my wife, I talked to her about that, and she knew my feelings on that, and she knew, you know, I educated myself about that. And
has your wife ever taken birth control?
No. She's
never. She's never had any of the types of birth control before that.
Never done any of that. He was, you know, they were saying that he may have come out with Down syndrome. They were telling her a lot of different things and scaring her, you know, telling her a lot of different things. She was worried. And
how old's your wife?
My wife, she's 32. I'm just a little bit younger than you. I'm 33.
Well, they know instantly with the blood test if he had that, so it sounds like bull. But they probably do that to make her feel better.
Yeah, it's possible, you know. See, here's my thing, and they said it was a cord failure, you know, but see, here's how they handled it. They didn't want to, when the doctor that was my wife's actual doctor, we had to get a substitute because my wife had decreased fetal movement, and she was telling me that, you know, this one afternoon, and we started going towards, you know, calling the doctor and everything, and the substitute doctor, when everything was all said and done, when they found no, you know, and they were going to take him out and have a C-section, she told me that the only thing she could see wrong was that the cord was kind of bent. All right, and then I was thinking, well, you know, the day before this happened, before he passed like this, you know, they monitored my wife, you know, like they were always doing, and they were saying everything's fine, he's big, we'll probably take him out, you know, like later on during that week, you know, like the Friday, you know. That,
they were saying they were going to do a cesarean? Why?
Yeah, well, my first baby was a C-section also. You know?
Oh, yes, they always do that after. Well, listen, you know, childbirth's always been tough. Coming in the world's always tough. It probably isn't their fault. And the cords do get wrapped around them and stuff, and that's why it's important to get those last sonograms. Sounds like you were doing that, and it's nobody's fault. It's just, you know, God, Lord giveth, Lord taketh away. And, you know, that's just the way it is. And I'm sad for you, my friend. And just have another baby, and it'll all work out in the end. You know, my grandfather crashed an airplane right when he got in World War II and got hurt, and a fighter pilot. And so most of the people early on in the war in his squadron died. I wouldn't exist if he wouldn't have had equipment malfunction. Turned out that plane had big problems. They'd been part of some corruption. A whole bunch of them were bad in the manufacture. And so, you know, he didn't get to be the big war hero like the other grandpa on a B-17 as a gunner, but he lived. And so you never know how these things work, okay? And I appreciate your call, sir. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very painful. And I'll pray for you and your wife. Was that Danny in Tennessee? I can't take any more calls on that. Ron and Derek, the show's over. I think we're going to end it on that. That's pretty depressing. If you want to be able to see the video and check out what we're doing, I was already pretty tired, and the heat's gone up here. They turned the AC up, man. I'm sweating. And I was already tired, and that bums me out. So I'm going to go ahead and end the transmission on that. And I will, here's the Japanese TV piece. And I will see you back tomorrow live at 11 a.m. If you want to see the video of this audio you're hearing on the web, get a PrisonPlanet.tv membership and get all the films, the audio, everything else with it while you're at it. Hey, let's go out with our cool bumper music, though. That Starship Troopers I played 10 years ago on the radio that I'd lost. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye. Until next time. All right, the show continues. Here's an interview I did with Japanese TV about a year ago. Stay with us. 5.5 hours. That was enjoyable. Well, I'd like to say it's Miller time, but it's not. I am going to go. I think I'll swim for exercise right now. Bye-bye. What is it? 9-9?
9-9? 9-9, yes.
Okay, Alex. Yes, sir. So we start with the director's request. You just talk. There's a 4 different.
And how long would you like me to spend on each one, sir?
Yeah. So total maybe 10 seconds.
Sure.
Yeah.
Gotcha. How many seconds?
10-15 seconds.
Really? You mean read each one for 10 seconds?
Just a read.
But I mean, how long should my answer be?
No. You don't need to answer. I'm going to ask the answer later. But
Okay.
This is just I want you to read it. So we're gonna use this. I want you to look at it.
Okay, I got you.
This is just for our purpose.
Oh, I understand. You ready? The collapse of the World Trade Centers.
By your own word, it's fine. Just number one.
Well, number one, we have the bizarre collapse of Tower 1, 2, and 7. Also, we have...
Number two?
Yes. Number two, we have the strange nature of these aircraft and bizarre things they were doing that day. Number three, we have the mystery of the Pentagon with this 16 to 18 foot hole with this huge aircraft disappearing into it. And then number four, we have the incredible government cover-up, the way they've been behaving for the last 5 years.
Can I take two versions? That version is good, but the other version is just to read it and then...
Sure.
Yeah. That is good. So the first, your version.
Okay.
Second,
Sure, fine.
this short version.
No problem.
Just talk to me. Can just keep it talking. Yeah.
Sure.
The first one,
Sure.
practice.
Sure.
Shorter version.
That's fine. Read the whole thing?
Yeah.
There are four different questions about the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Number one, the collapse of the World Trade Centers. Number two, the mystery of the airplanes. Number three, the mystery of the Pentagon. Number four, the government cover-up.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to ask the one by one.
Sure.
So please answer me like within 5 minutes.
No problem.
Maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay. So, number one question: the collapse of the World Trade Center. What would you tell about it? What's the question?
A modern steel building has never collapsed from fire. And we have underwriting laboratories that underwrote the buildings, and their own study showed that the building should not have collapsed. We have Tower 1 and Tower 2, both 110 stories apiece, and their architects and designers stated that they were designed to take two large jet aircraft crashing into each building. But on 9/11, Tower 1 and 2 fell mysteriously. But the media doesn't like to focus on 7, a 47-story building way down the block that had several small fires in it that day and then imploded with the classical signature of a controlled demolition from explosives. We see the central column being blown out first and collapsing. Then if you look at close-ups of the video, you see the blast points, boom, 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 and you see it fall into a perfect pile, not even seriously damaging buildings that were only about 25 feet away on both sides. So we know that there were bombs in Tower 1 and 2. We have firefighters, we have police reporting saying that it was as if there were bombs, that there were explosions going off right before they collapsed. Tower 1 and 2 were blown up unconventionally from the top down, but as it collapses, you can see the blast points going boom, 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 boom. They're called pop-outs or squibs, blasting as the building collapses. Also, they claim that jet fuel caused this, but jet fuel only burns between 1,200 and 1,800 degrees. Steel doesn't start weakening until about 2,300, doesn't start melting until about 2,800. These are scientific facts. And most of the jet fuel had been expended and already burned out. That's why people were standing in the holes in the building. Help me, standing in the holes right next to huge 4-foot around columns that supposedly shattered seconds later. And this is key. With Tower 1 and 2, we see the concrete, the steel being pulverized, being turned into fine powder, huge plumes of dust. A modern building had never fallen from fire, but even if it was, engineers and experts have said it would crinkle and bend and just fall over. It wouldn't blow with huge thousands of feet of white plumes and all this toxic dust. They said all the body parts were in small pieces. All the computers were blown into little bitty small pieces. Everything was pulverized by the explosives. But there weren't just explosive charges in Tower 1, 2, and 7. This is very important. Professor Stephen Jones has gotten samples from some of the memorial parts of the steel, and they took aircraft photos weeks after and found 2,500, 2,300 degree molten pools of steel that were even there months later. Well, jet fuel doesn't burn anywhere near that hot. These were very low burning fires, oxygen star fires. Well, then how did you have all this molten steel down there in the basements? He had the hypothesis that only thermite could cause that. And even before he knew that demolition experts used thermite and thermate to cut through columns, and they also used explosives on top of that, he had the hypothesis. They got the samples, they tested them, and it had the byproducts of thermite, but not just thermite. It had the byproducts of the patented thermate with sulfur and other additives, which causes the thermite to burn even faster. This is conclusive proof, not just of conventional explosives, but thermite, thermate, the patented system used to destroy these buildings.
Truth betrays common sense. It should not be like this. How did 9/11 happen?
So how about number 2, mystery of the airplane? What do you think about it?
People talk about the mystery of the airplanes, and certainly folks have noticed pods or different attachments or claim there weren't windows. I really don't subscribe to that theory. We know what happened on 9/11. The hijackers were really U.S. government agents who had been trained at military bases, and the head of the Defense Language School in Monterey, California, went public saying we were forced to train these people. They were also trained at the Pensacola Naval Air Station. They thought they were taking part in live drills to test security to see if they could get on board the aircraft. Once they were on board the aircraft, nerve gas was released, killing everyone aboard. Then remote control systems took control of the aircraft and flew them into the buildings. And this is actually in Operation Northwoods, an official U.S. government plan to carry out terror attacks to blame on enemies. Our own government talks about how they would remote control aircraft and use them as weapons. And the CIA that morning was running a drill with the Pentagon of flying hijacked jets into the World Trade Center, Pentagon, CIA headquarters, and many other targets. So the rest of the government thought it was all a drill. That's why on the tapes they say, is this real world or exercise? Is this part of the drill? I've never seen so much real stuff during a drill. That confused everyone. And whenever the New World Order crime syndicate carries out terror attacks, they always have drills at the exact same time to confuse the good part of the government. The majority of the government's good. It's very tiny criminal mafia groups within the government that are doing this, and that's exactly what happened on 9/11. So people talk about the mysteries of the planes. Did they land planes? They have other planes take off. I don't believe that that's what happened, because I have inside Pentagon sources that 2 years before it broke in the news that they were running drills, I already had the information that they were running that drill by late 2001, and it didn't come out until 2003 in the media that they were running drills. Then people ask, well, what about the cell phone calls? It's very easy to fake cell phone calls. The computer programs are there. The mothers and fathers that got these calls said it sounded like my son, but it was a one-way conversation. They'd say, hello, mother, it's me. They'd say their name. You believe me, don't you? You don't call your mother and say, you believe me, it's your son. And most of the calls were supposedly from cell phones at above 10,000 feet. Cell phones don't work above 4,000 feet. That's well known. Then the few airphone calls that did come in off the airphones in the seats, it was stewardesses saying, I can't breathe. There's something in the, we've been hijacked. There's something in the cockpit. I can't breathe. So the few real calls we've got, they're saying, I can't breathe. You see, and that fits in with what the information I have from the Pentagon sources is that they put their own agents on board, posing as hijackers, taking part in the drills. We know these men were trained at U.S. military bases. They killed everybody on board and flew the planes into the buildings.
Okay, so we should discuss about the mystery of the Pentagon.
Sure. The Pentagon controversy is one of the central things that the media has focused on in the United States. And the reason that there is a controversy is because we have the first photos and video of the facade, the face of the Pentagon, where it was hit by that jet aircraft that pulled some impossible maneuvers. And it's a little bitty 16 to 18 foot hole. Now later, after fire, it collapsed into a bigger hole, but you don't have any big engines, any big parts, any seats. They've never shown us any of the bodies. It's just a red, smoking, perfectly circular hole. And then you even look at the video they've released. It's a white-hot flash. Looks like an explosion. You don't see a plane anywhere there. I don't know what really happened at the Pentagon, but I do know this. We're not being told the truth. We're being lied to. And that's what we attempt to cover at my news website, Infowars.com.
So the last thing, the number 4, the government cover-up.
Not only do we have all the evidence of government involvement in 9/11, then we have their cover-up. George Bush tried to appoint their family confidant, Henry Kissinger, to be the supposed independent head. That would be like if a gangster was on trial and he appointed his brother to be the judge. So number one, the 9/11 Commission was not independent. It was a fraud. The 9/11 Commission never mentioned Building 7 collapsing. The 9/11 Commission lied and said there were no central columns in Tower 1 or 2 when Muro Yamasaki overbuilt the buildings with 47 giant steel columns in each one in the center, overbuilt for strength. The Commission just claims there's no columns in the middle. It's like saying the sun didn't come up this morning. So just incredible lies on that front. Also, about half the Commission is involved in business with defense contractors and defense brokers like the Carlyle Group. Some of them are even involved with the Bin Laden family in some of their businesses. But the really big cover-up is the fact that firefighters and emergency workers, and this has been in our news, found the emergency black boxes, the data recorders. They're really orange with black stripes on them. They found them and in the rubble. And the government then announced we never found them, and they loaded them on four-wheelers and drove them out and told the emergency people, you never saw those black boxes. They told the FAA to shred all the tapes and put them in different trash cans that day. They told FBI agents that were following the, quote, hijackers, who were really government agents, to back off. Then when FBI agents tried to go public, like FBI agent Robert Wright, they threatened to arrest him. The head of counterterrorism for the FBI agent John O'Neill, tried to go public, warning him of an impending attack, and they told him to shut up. So there are so many countless examples of cover-up. We have the government banning photography and video around the World Trade Center complex in the days after. We have them under guard, hauling the steel away to China and South Korea and having it melted down, not letting anyone test it. Thank God we were able later to get some small samples that were sent to some memorial parks and find the thermate in it. So systematically, there has been a continual cover-up, and the administration has lied and lied. First, they claimed they had never heard of a plan to fly hijacked jets into buildings. They said, no one ever heard of that. We promise. Came out, they had an exact memo saying that. Came out, they were running drills that morning and 2 weeks before of the exact same targets being hit by hijacked jets. And there are hundreds and hundreds of other lies. From start to finish, it's all one giant 500-plus page lie in their 9/11 Commission report. I have read it. I have written an analysis of it. Many other scholars have written an analysis of it. They are counting on us being stupid. They are counting on us not researching the facts, but their cover-up is imploding. The majority of the American people now know 9/11 is an inside job carried out as a pretext for a Pax Americana global tyrannical empire.
はい、一回切ってもらっていいですか？ちょっと
You want to ask those bottom ones about the about the symposium and all that?
Yes, I'm going to ask.
Great.
Yeah. Now we're done for these questions.
Good. That do good for you?
Perfect.
Good.
Perfect. Yeah, we just spent 10 minutes for these questions, so they like it that we really summarize all these questions. So
Thank you.
Very, very happy.
Thank you.
Symposium at the Los Angeles
Sure.
and Chicago.
Sure.
So what you discussed in the symposium, just to summarize what the nature of the meeting.
Sure. It's fine.
So beforehand, maybe you say you are the organizer and the founder of this movement.
Well, I am the father of the 9/11 Truth Movement. I was aware that the attacks were coming months before and warned the people, and specifically said that our own government was going to attack the World Trade Centers and then blame it on their agent, their asset, bin Laden. And day one, I went public on 9/11, and I helped organize a huge meeting in Dallas, Texas, a giant meeting in Los Angeles, and was involved in a big meeting in Chicago where we brought in experts from all over the United States and North America to expose 9/11 as an inside job. And we're having a great effect. It was also carried on national television here in the United States, and millions and millions of people have woken up because of it. You may talk more about it? Or?
Yeah, a little bit about what's really discussed in the meeting. Just briefly talking about main points of the meeting.
At these symposiums, we discussed the fact that bin Laden's known CIA and has been hired by our government for over 25 years. We broke down how the towers had bombs in them. We broke down the motives. Why would the government stage this attack? As a pretext to have a domestic tyranny, a police state here in the U.S., as a pretext to grab trillions in oil in the Middle East, and for hundreds of billions of dollars in no-bid contract weapons sales. So it's really about a global empire and the American people losing their freedoms. We exposed that. We also got into the hundreds and hundreds of smoking guns of 9/11, how the hijackers were really U.S. government agents, how they were trained at U.S. military bases. We had the former director of the U.S. Star Wars Directed Energy Weapons Program, who was also a fighter bomber pilot from Vietnam, also an interceptor pilot, Dr. Bob Bowman, and he revealed the facts of how NORAD stood down that day, and how people say the government did nothing on 9/11. That's not true. The government would have done nothing and had its default position. They would have sent fighters up and shot down those aircraft. But 2 months before 9/11, Dick Cheney took the authority for generals and admirals to shoot aircraft down away from them only to himself, and he was in control in the bunker that morning. And Norman Mineta, the transportation secretary, was in the bunker with him, and he saw the aide walk over to the vice president and said, the plane's 50 miles out, it's 30 miles out, it's 20 miles out. And you get the video of this. Norman Mineta gave a speech on it before the commission. And the aide said, aren't we going to shoot it down? We've got to do something. And Dick Cheney said, the order still stands, and they stood down. This is all right out in plain view, and they let that aircraft come into the Pentagon. So that's the type of things that we discussed there. We had Dr. Stephen Jones breaking down explosives in the buildings. We had other experts getting into the history of government-sponsored terror. One of the most important areas that we discussed at the conference was the history of U.S. government-sponsored terror. In 1953, our government admits they staged terror attacks in Iran to overthrow their elected government. Our government admits they staged terror attacks in Europe in the 70s and 80s to blame it on the Soviets. Our government admits they had a plan to bomb D.C., to hijack jets for remote control, and to attack our own military bases and blame it on Cuba. And that plan, of course, got nixed by the president, then JFK. But this goes way back. Of course, we've also now talked about how the Gulf of Tonkin has been declassified. 1964. We knew for decades that the Vietnamese never attacked us. We knew that was staged as people come forward. But the media called it a conspiracy theory. The government did. Now the LBJ presidential tapes have been released where he's on the phone with Defense Secretary McNamara saying, hey, we staged this attack. We get to expand the war against Vietnam. 1964. And now the CIA and NSA have released official history that was staged. So we also talked about the history of government-sponsored terror. There's many, many other examples. Hitler, of course, firebombed his own Reichstag. The evidence shows for a crackdown. Then in 1939 to attack Poland, he staged an attack on his own military base in Gleiwitz, and then sent the Poles and attacked Germany, and the Germans said, well, let's get them. So governments themselves do this over and over and over and over again. So we also discussed the history of government-sponsored terror. But the key is Operation Northwoods, the official U.S. government plan to stage terror attacks and kill American citizens and maim American citizens, to blame it on foreign enemies as a pretext for global empire and enslavement.
First, this operation, what's about it?
It's Operation Northwoods. And if you type it into Google, just type in Operation Northwoods into Google, you can pull it up from the National Security Archive, Library of Congress, ABC News, headline, U.S. government plan to terrorize U.S. cities for pretext for war. Baltimore Sun reported on it. The document was declassified in 2000. It is an official document. It's 15 pages long. And in it they say we can stage the deaths, not really have deaths, or we can really kill people. And they say we can hijack jets by remote control. We can do all of this. We can bomb D.C. They said we can have snipers in D.C. shoot citizens and then blame it on them. They even talk about how to frame patsies. They even talk about how to frame people in there.
So the last question. So about the future, what do you think going to be the future of these conspiracy theories, like your movement?
Sure. The movement that I started over 5 years ago, before 9/11, is growing and growing and growing and is unstoppable. The majority of the American people in polls in the Washington Post, CNN, you name it, the majority believe 9/11 is an inside job. Not just the government failed to act, or screwed up, or let it happen. No, that it is a total inside job. So there's a collision between the terrorists, the military-industrial complex that run this country, and the American people. There is a collision. They are rising, we're rising, and there's going to be a collision. And that collision is happening right now. They may stage more terror attacks. They may go to total martial law in this country. There may be a civil war in this country. But we will bring these terrorists to justice. They will pay for their crimes. They're going down.
Thank you. That's a very powerful statement.
Well, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
For thousands of years, their dark order grew. Now, as they hail the birth of the New World Order, their great dream of exterminating 80% of humanity is at hand.